What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 11 LF Chapter 141 The Dreamy Base Camp, The Longing of Mermaid Girls. HMPH, I didn't change my look just for this guy. Perona turned her head away with a rosy smile and said arrogantly. It's very nice. Xia Luo gave her a thumbs up. By the way, do you like Perona-chan that much? How do you like my new look? Karina said dissatisfied, then lifted up her purple hair and put on a sexy look. She changed into a white shirt and overalls, with only the button on her navel button, so that the white part of her belly button was exposed. Her purple hair was scattered messily, revealing a hint of messy beauty. Of course my baby Karina is also very beautiful. Xia Luo did not shy away from her praise. He walked over to her and sat down. Not only Perona and Karina, but also Kaya and Vivi also changed their looks. Kaya still maintained her original innocent girl next door style, but she changed into a set of work clothes that looked like a secretary's. 2 years of growth had made her chest stretched high. Vivi put on a red bikini with a transparent silk scarf and short sleeves, like. It is a dress for summer beach outings. The original hair is divided into 2 ponytails and hammered on the chest. The ponytails are tied with 2 white flowers, which can better show off Vivi's beautiful face. So, have you been tinkering with how to change your clothes? Xia Luo asked curiously. Before Karina pulled Perona and Vivi towards the room, she thought it was what happened to Karina at 8 trigrams last night. Unexpectedly, he went to change clothes for the 2 of them, and Kaya who followed him also had her style change. Wouldn't it be such a waste if I didn't wear them after purchasing so many clothes at the Fishman Island? How are you going to reward me tonight? Karina whispered in Xia Luo's ear. Vivi and Perona next to them turned rosy when they heard this. They had just suffered the baptism of fire not long ago and were very sensitive to this. Xia Luo gave her a look, letting her understand. By the way, why don't you see Sister Reiju? At this time, Kaya changed the subject. She glanced around and found that Reiju was not there, so she asked. Haha, you have to ask someone. Nami took over the conversation and looked at Xia Luo with intriguing eyes. Everyone also looked over, and the pressure suddenly came to Xia Luo. It's Reiju's, she said she still wants to enjoy the sea breeze. Don't worry about her for now. If you are hungry, you can eat first. Xia Luo still used the same reasons just now. Others didn't pay much attention, only Karina seemed to understand something through Nami's expression. Soon, the pleasant lunch came to an end, and Reiju returned to the cabin hall on the way. After a period of sorting out, her complexion remained as usual without any abnormalities, and her behavior showed her usual sister-like charm. The Longyu sailed for another half-day. Finally, we returned to the islands as night approached. Look, that's where you will live in the future. Xia Luo raised her hands to show the mermaid girls. Above the sky, more than a dozen islands are floating in the sky at different heights. Some islands also have sea currents that continue to flow to the islands below and form rivers, and beautiful rainbows appear in the sky. Under the illumination of the setting sun, this scene is even more desperate. So awesome. Is this the island where Master Xia Luo is located? Really? It's so beautiful now. Shirahoshi's eyes sparkled, looking longingly at the archipelago centered on Longyu Island. A huge island that looks like a volcano, an island with countless sakura trees growing there, and an island with some ancient civilization ruins scattered around. The effects brought about when these elements come together continue to impact Shirahoshi's vision. All the mermaid girls were also like Shirahoshi, looking straight ahead, and they could see more clearly as the ship got closer. Xiao Yin reincarnated into his original form, soaring in the air, constantly shuttling between islands. Then we stopped on one of the highest island peaks, standing on the crater of the volcano. Its favorite place to stay is high in the mountains, so it chooses to make its home in that kind of place. So hot. The mermaid girl looked at Tian Weilong with admiring eyes and couldn't help but murmured. At this moment, they felt the meaning of Xia Luo's adventure. Explore each different island and enjoy the beautiful scenery that is better than fairyland. Isn't this the meaning of life? Master Xia Luo. Can I go explore these islands? Shirahoshi looked at Xia Luo expectantly. Of course, this will be your home from now on. Can't you just go wherever you want in your own home? But there are some ferocious animals on the island. It's best to be accompanied by Xiaoyan. And it's almost night now. Let's go there another day when we have time. Xia Luo said with a smile, and then warned Shirahoshi about the dangers. Yes. Shirahoshi nodded vigorously, the anticipation in his eyes not weakening at all. The ship docked at the island, and the mermaid girls followed Xia Luo into the building with curious eyes. Everything on the road attracted them deeply. The grass and flowers in the huge park were different from those on the seabed, and some of the small animals kept here. Shirahoshi's eyes were almost shining with excitement, especially when he saw a creature like a cat, whose appearance he only knew from the collection of paintings and from his mother's mouth. Now that I saw it with my own eyes, I couldn't help but pick it up and give it a couple of hard strokes. However, the cat's eyes lit up after seeing these mermaids. It's probably just cat instinct. Unfortunately, the disparity in strength was too great, and he was quickly taken down. After being ravaged by the girls, he fled in a hurry. Come to the hall. Two figures were standing in front of him and bowed respectfully to Xia Luo. Welcome back, Lord Xia Luo. It was the dancer Pacia and the slave Xia Palace. We didn't take them with us on this trip to Mermaid Island. It would be too ostentatious to take Xia with us, and we couldn't use her at the moment, so we simply left her on Longyu Island. Pacia also chose to stay here because she needed to teach Xia. But it seems that these days of training are not in vain, at least the etiquette is taught quite well. Xia also knew how to face Xia Luo. Well, I'm back. Nothing unexpected happened these days, right? Xia Luo nodded and asked. Everything went well these days when Mr. Xia Luo left, and there were no accidents. Pacia bowed respectfully, and then answered Xia Luo's doubts. Jun Xia Luo? Who are they? At this time, Kami asked curiously. Isn't Xia Luo's crew the only one with Nami? Why are there two more now? Only Shirley looked shocked and could not calm down for a long time. Celestial Dragons, Xia Palace. Captain Xia Luo is really good at it. I didn't expect the rumors to be true. Shirley took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled it, and explained Shirley's identity before Xia Luo could speak. What, it turns out to be Celestial Dragons, featuring. Kami looked relieved at first, but after repeating the sentence, her jaw dropped and her eyes almost popped out of her head. The other mermaid girls also looked at Xia in shock. Have even the Celestial Dragons joined Master Xia Luo's fleet? It's really amazing. Shirahoshi looked at Xia Luo with admiration. She knew the identity and status of Celestial Dragons. She had met a Celestial Dragons when she was a child. At that time, this Celestial Dragons planned to shoot his own mother, but then passed out for unknown reasons. Finally, he recovered from his injuries and was sent back to the ground by his mother, who was inspired by her and promised to repay the kindness of the Fishman Island in the future. Through this incident, he also understood that the Celestial Dragons were very powerful people on the ground. But there are actually people like this on Xia Luo's ship. Doesn't this prove how powerful Xia Luo is? Now I am just a slave to my master. My identity as Celestial Dragons is already in the past for me. But Xia was not at all proud of this. Instead, she lowered her head and said respectfully. In front of Xia Luo, she was humbled to the ultimate level. Celestial Dragons as slaves? Xia Luo is so awesome, even the Celestial Dragons are willing to be his slaves. Then we are so lucky to be able to become crew members. The mermaid girls whispered, but in front of Xia Luo and others, it was like, conspiracy loudly, and it all fell in their ears. Okay, stop standing around, come in and sit down. Xia Luo stepped forward first, held the two girls in his arms, kneaded them, and then introduced them to everyone. This is my dancer Pacia, and Xia, as you all know, the former Celestial Dragons is now my dancer. Pacia's face was rosy, and she twisted in discomfort, but she didn't break away. Xia was much more direct. She directly put her arms around Xia Luo's waist and leaned into his arms and hummed softly, feeling Xia Luo's mischievous hands. Well, I'm not a dancer, I'm Lord Xia Luo's slave. Xia said with a serious expression. She didn't expect that she wanted to be Xia Luo's slave more than being a dancer. Xia Luo frowned and shouted dissatisfied. Are you dissatisfied with my status arrangement? I don't dare. As long as it is Master Xia Luo's request, I will comply. After hearing this, Xia looked panicked and quickly shook her head in denial. With his head lowered, he looked like a child who had made a mistake, silently waiting for punishment from an adult. Didn't you expect that it actually has the potential of M? No wonder the previous performance was so abnormal, and it was so easy to get started. Asterisk. Xia Luo looked at Xia appearance and thought to herself. So Haki, so wild, I like it. Sierra licked her lips, stared at Xia Luo, and said seductively. It seems that Xia Luo is really to her liking and is her cup of tea. Although the other mermaid girls did not make a sound, it was not difficult to tell from the blurred eyes that the same was true. On the other hand, Shirahoshi and Kami's eyes shone brightly and they looked at Xia Luo with admiration. After this farce, Nami and the others began to take the mermaid girls to visit and familiarize themselves with the environment here. Xia Luo came to Reiju's side. At this time, she was still a little frustrated. She turned her head away from looking at Xia Luo, almost saying that she was about to coax me. In response, Xia Luo also approached with a playful smile. Every time Reiju took a step back, he took another step forward, and finally he directly carried her to lie on the sofa. What are you doing? If you still want to mess around, go to your Nami-chan. She can tolerate your random messing around. With no way to retreat, Reiju rolled his eyes at him angrily and said helplessly. Hey, that's not the case. You see, we don't have a suitable place for Shirahoshi and her family to live here, and I want Judge's construction team to help build an underwater palace. Now Judge has given you the command of those artificial beings, so I would like to trouble you to take command. That's it? Reiju glanced at him and asked softly. When it's more than that. Okay, what happened this afternoon was my fault, I will be more careful next time. Xia Luo's tone softened and she spoke softly. Next time? Do you still want a next time? Forget it, I will forgive you for the sake of apology, but you should find your new love tonight. You can also try with your Nami-chan next time. Reiju rolled his eyes at him again, then gently pushed away his arms, stood up and walked away. Haha, I still went too far. I have a bad temper, I'll teach you a lesson next time. You. Xia Luo shook her head helplessly and chuckled. When he comes back this time, he plans to place the mermaid girl on Longyu Island for a few days to get familiar with her. Use this time to find trouble with Doflamingo and let Monet cut him off completely. Judging from the clown's assets, he probably has a lot of things worth bringing over. Especially the girl Baby 5 who always obeys her orders. There is also a girl with regular fruit abilities named Sugar, she is Monet's sister. Now that my sister has come to Xia Luo's side, there is no reason to let her go. There is also the former princess of Dressrosa, Violet, I heard that she is also a dancer. Just in time to form a dance troupe with Pacia and Xia Lulia to perform a dance for Xia Luo. He won't stop until Doflamingo bleeds heavily this time. Doflamingo, who was far away in Dressrosa, suddenly sneezed. Huh? Has it started to get colder recently? Doflamingo rubbed his nose and looked out the window at the silent night, wondering. Xia Luo easily drew a large area of water from the sea and floated it in the air to create a comfortable sea area for the mermaid girl. What's wrong? What makes you so panicked? Could it be that aliens are attacking the Earth? What alien? What is that? Captain Xia Luo is saying something strange again. The title attracted me. Compared with those, Captain Xia Luo, let's take a look at this first. Marine is crazy. Khalifa handed the newspaper in her hand to Xia Luo. Xia Luo took it and looked at it doubtfully, and was immediately attracted by. Just like that, the night passed. Captain Xia Luo, something big happened. Xia Luo looked at Khalifa doubtfully. Public execution. Xia and Whitebeard's 2nd Division Captain, Fire Fist Portgas d'Ace. Easily open an underground passage on the island, allowing the mermaid girls to quickly swim from the sea to the center of Longyu Island. Looking at the brightly lit city below the high ground, Doflamingo smiled sadly. I don't know if Baby 5 and the others have found Monet. Does that guy dare to be so arrogant? Is it because he thinks I won't be able to find him? Reiju began to arrange manpower to build an underwater palace for Shirahoshi and the others. He had no idea that someone thousands of miles away was already eyeing the 3 remaining girls in his cadre. You actually dared to speak rudely and want to trouble me, but it doesn't matter, after Baby 5 finds you, I will prepare a big gift for you, blah blah blah. Khalifa came to Xia Luo in a panic, with a look of surprise on his face. Said, the waters are basically attached to the waters around Longyu Island. Chapter 142 Whitebeard must be dead this time. I didn't expect the plot to progress so fast. Has it already reached Summit War? Xia Luo opened her mouth with an extremely exaggerated smile. Plot? Summit War? What does this mean? Khalifa on the side heard his mumbling and thought with some confusion. She couldn't understand it and could only think it was the captain's daily illness. It's really big news. 7 days from now, first guess Marine has already started gathering Shichibukai by now. There is probably big trouble in Jinbei. I don't know what the direction will be after this time. It's really interesting. Xia Luo put down the newspaper and laughed. His arrival has brought about huge changes in the plot. Many of the original plots have also changed, but Summit War will still be held as scheduled. This is also the plot he is most looking forward to when he comes to this world. Thinking of those battle scenes in the original book, his blood boils. Although he has no interest in saving Ace, how can such an incident happen? Don't get involved. Captain Xia Luo, this is not an interesting thing. Marine's behavior is too abnormal. From what first understand, Marine is probably going to take action against the emperors of the sea. Khalifa was very puzzled and nervously explained to Xia Luo. Marine officially declared war on one of the 4 emperors, which she thought was too abnormal. Normally, Marine would choose to imprison such criminals in Infiltrating, but this time he openly provoked Whitebeard, one of the overlords of the sea. As if she was deliberately trying to provoke Whitebeard into joining the war, she had reason to suspect that the world government was about to take action against these ocean tyrants. As a result, Xia Luo and the others will no longer be targeted by the world governments. 120. Don't panic, we are in the sky, and there is nothing the world government can do to us at the moment. Xia Luo pressed her hand to signal Khalifa not to panic and said in a calm tone. Even in the sky, there is no guarantee that the world government will have any targeted weapons. Even Lord Judge and the others can make flying equipment, but Garpunk won't be able to make it even if they want to. Khalifa was still a little worried and expressed her uneasiness. Haha, so what if they can fly? In this world, strength speaks for itself. Yes, even if the 3 admirals arrive, I will not be afraid of them at all. Besides, how could I not take part in such an interesting thing? I guess Marine's expression will be very interesting when I appear on the stage. What? Captain Xia Luo, do you still want to go to the scene? Upon hearing this, Khalifa was shocked and shocked Xia Luo's thoughts. Others are avoiding this, but Xia Luo actually wants to get involved. Isn't she afraid of getting into trouble? That was a battle between the world's strongest man, Whitebeard, and the world's most powerful organization, world government. What are you afraid of? Xiaoyan and I can go, and you just stay at home. Xia Luo pinched Khalifa's chin and said with a smile. Unexpectedly, the next second his hand was slapped away by the other party. Captain Xia Luo, you are sexually harassing me. Karina pushed her eyes, and the reflection of the lenses reflected Xia Luo's face, and she said with a serious face. It's really not cute. I'm your captain. Shouldn't you obey the captain in this kind of thing? Xia Luo curled her lips. Karina's personality was completely opposite to others. She was a bit cold towards these things, which was called frigidity. But it's interesting to conquer it this way. What kind of captain would do such a thing to his own crew, and these things cannot be obeyed just because of the captain? Khalifa still has a cool and serious look, but she has gradually regained her former urban and capable secretary style. Yes, that's why you're not cute, Khalifa-chan. Look, Monet, who has the same secretary attributes as you, is much cuter. He easily captures the heart of my captain. Xia Luo blinked at her, chuckled with a hearty and somewhat funny smile. In response, Khalifa pushed up her glasses again, and a gleam of light flashed across the lenses. Okay, no more fuss. Those guys have collected intelligence about the things that were arranged before. Seeing that Khalifa was unmoved, Xia Luo changed into her normal appearance and spoke seriously. Yes. Judging from the intelligence collected so far, the locations of Big Mom and Kaido have not changed. Whitebeard's location has been found. Except for the erratic and unconfirmed location of red-haired Shanks, the locations of everyone else have been figured out. Seeing that Xia Luo became serious, Khalifa also breathed a sigh of relief, and then showed the temperament of a capable female secretary and said with a serious expression. Previously, Xia Luo had ordered his old subordinates and the 3 people from CP9 to collect information on the other 4 banks. Find out where you are before you go to trouble them. Originally, the 3 of them worked together to protect Geisa around the clock, but with the arrival of Judge, it became a rotation of 3. With 2 agents going out to sea to collect intelligence at the same time, the efficiency is quite fast. Very good, give me Whitebeard's current position. Xia Luo nodded and said calmly. Whitebeard's location, I took a look and found it, here. Captain Xia Luo, why do you want this now? Are you trying to find Whitebeard? After hearing this, Khalifa searched in his own alien space and successfully found a map. After handing it to Xia Luo, he asked doubtfully. That's right, remember to inform Nami and the others for me so that they don't have to wait for me to eat today. Xia Luo shook the map in his hand and chuckled. As soon as he finished speaking, a bolt of lightning fell from the clear sky and fell next to Xia Luo. It was Nami who came. I heard you, you are too messy, and you plan to go to the headquarters of the 4 emperors alone. This time is different from attending a tea party. If you enter rashly, I'm afraid you will have to fight before Whitebeard and Marine can fight. Nami rubbed her somewhat messy hair and said helplessly. Don't worry, I'm not going to fight, just to meet an old friend that Mr. Shiki often mentioned. This summit war is probably going to be very bad for Whitebeard. If we don't go see him now, we probably won't be able to see him again later. Are you so sure that Whitebeard will definitely lose to Marine? You know, this is the strongest man in the world. Nami gave him a confused look, but she didn't expect Xia Luo to be optimistic about Marine. If it were another person, Nami was still not convinced, but she believed 100% in what Xia Luo said. Marine's background is not just what you see. 3 admirals alone are enough for Whitebeard to drink a pot, not to mention the 2 old guys Garp and Sengoku. Whitebeard will definitely die this time, Xia Luo said in a decisive tone. Build, Marine hero Garp. Marshal Sengoku. If that's the case, then why do you plan to get involved in these things? Wouldn't it be better to let them fight and hurt both sides? Nami frowned and asked in confusion. The 2 forces are not their friends, but enemies. They should be happy when 2 enemies fight. Now Xia Luo is eager to get involved, but she always feels like she has stepped into the quagmire. Ha ha ha, if you are an ordinary person, you will indeed choose this way. There is no need to get involved in such a battle between 2 major forces. But, wouldn't this be too boring? We are pirates now, so we should do what we want to do as we please. I just want to let Marine and the world know my power. My goal is not something that the world government and Marine can stop. No one can stop me from dominating the world. Xia Luo smiled heartily, crossed her arms, and then her expression became arrogant, and she got up with embarrassment. Showing his strength to the world is what he wants to do. No one can refuse to show off, and he is no exception. There is nothing more satisfying than showing your strength and announcing your arrival in front of a live broadcast around the world. Didn't he come to this world just to become stronger, find beautiful women, and show off? He wants to take advantage of all 3 beautiful things in life. I don't understand what you men are thinking in your heads. It's up to you. Nami covered her forehead and sighed helplessly. There was nothing she could do to persuade her. No one understood Xia Luo better than her. She spoke with such an expression on her face. If she didn't let him go, Nami might have to endure Xia Luo's fire for several days afterwards. She doesn't have the ability to hold it. Even if she pulls in all her good sisters, she can't hold it down. Besides, even if she had the intention to stop it, could she really stop it? Isn't it normal to not understand what a man is thinking? Don't try to understand a man's mind. Xia Luo stepped forward and stretched out his arms to hug her, pressed his forehead against Nami's forehead, and spoke softly. Nami closed her eyes and felt the warmth Xia Luo brought to her. Era Allah, what a clingy captain, Nami said sweetly. Ahem. A sudden cough interrupted the tenderness between the two of them. Khalifa turned his head, clenched his hands into fists and put them to his mouth, and spoke slowly. You two should also take a look at the occasion and location. At the very least, please go back to the house. Xia Luo waved her hand to Khalifa like she was shooing away flies, saying that she was too much of a hindrance here. Nami also pushed away Xia Luo's arms and tidied her messy hair. Just do whatever you want, I don't care about you anymore, but now, let's go greet the guests. Looking at Xia Luo, who looked like an angry child, Nami said angrily and pointed to the sky in the distance. Only a small dot can be seen with the naked eye. If you don't look carefully, you might think it is some kind of bird of prey. Hi, I understand. Xia Luo took back the hand that was slapped away for pinching Khalifa's face, and said indifferently. In her ears, Khalifa kept angrily accusing Xia Luo of sexual harassment. He waved his hand casually to show that there was nothing you could do to me, turned around and disappeared directly. Okay, Khalifa, you've been here for so many days, and it's not like you don't know Xia Luo. Instead of resisting, it's better to enjoy it. Compared with other bad men, Xia Luo is pretty good. He is a man worth trusting for life. Seeing Khalifa's resistance, Nami also had a helpless smile on his face and then joked. But what she said felt like forcing a good girl into prostitution. Don't say such strange things. What kind of enjoyment is this? I don't have that kind of interest. Khalifa blushed abnormally and subconsciously turned her head and pushed up her glasses to hide her shyness. Seeing her like this, Nami burst out laughing. The other side. Baby 5 and Violet sat on Buffalo's back and slowly flew towards Longyu Island. Buffalo has the ability to turn any part of his body into a propeller. Now he turns his head and feet into propellers, spinning them continuously until he looks like a helicopter. The speed of flying in the air, although it is far not as fast as Xia Luo's lion fruit, it is still many times faster than a normal ship traveling in the sea. Damn it, what's going on? Is this guy Monet constantly being transferred? Obviously we flew along the position of the lifeguard for a period of time yesterday, and then the position moved again, but it cost us a lot of effort. This woman has really caused so much trouble to the young master. I want the young master to punish her well after she returns. Listen up, BABY5. The young master needs you to investigate the identities of those guys, and then report the information to him. Don't do anything unnecessary. Buffalo said calmly. Needed? Baby 5 quickly changed his demeanor, from anger to expectation and coercion, and said with an expectant look on his face. Are you saying that I am needed by the young master? Hey, Baby 5, the order given to us by the young master is to investigate, find the group of guys who kidnapped Monet, and pass the information back. There is nothing unnecessary. Obviously it is an uninhabited island full of poisonous gas in 5.1, but someone will come here specifically. It seems that they are well prepared. HMPH, no need, I can kill those guys who dared to disobey the young master by myself, and at the same time rescue those two useless guys Monet and Geisa. Buffalo showed a helpless smile, and this was the only way to calm down BEBY5. Baby 5 wears windproof glasses and holds a cigarette in his mouth, looking impatient. This beautiful woman is an out-and-out slut, eager to be needed by others. As long as it is someone else's need, she cannot refuse others, no matter whether the person is an enemy or a friend. Buffalo, who knew BABY5's temperament well, also looked helpless. Then his face became serious again and he said. Wulu Sai, shut up, I'm very unhappy right now. You can't blame Monet. No one expected that anyone would find Geisa in Punk Hazard. Really, it's like this again. Facing Buffalo's persuasion, BEBY5 still looked angry. It seemed that being led around in circles had worn away her patience, and now she felt very unhappy. Anyway, just find Monet as soon as possible, find out her current location and report it to the young master. Baby 5, don't act impulsively and ruin the young master's plan. Yes, the young master needs you to detect the target and wait for news about him. Chapter 143. The best woman in the pirate world, saw it. Then, what exactly is going on? Violet, who had been silent, suddenly said. Breaking through the clouds that obscured everyone's vision, Violet opened her mouth wide and looked shocked when she saw the scene in front of her. Baby 5 and Buffalo also immediately looked over because of Violet's reminder. I thought I had caught up with Monet and the others, but looking at the sea there was no sign of a ship. But as the angle of view increased, they were as surprised as if Vio was shitting. What the hell is going on? The island is floating. Baby 5 couldn't help but murmured to herself, the look of shock hadn't faded from her face. It's really weird, the islands that originally existed in the sea are actually floating in the sky. Although the scene in front of them was like a dreamlike fairyland, it gave the three of them a cold feeling. Look, that's Punk Hazard. Why does this island appear here? Sharp-eyed Violet immediately discovered Punk Hazard among the many islands. Punk Hazard. How? Is it possible? The direction of Punk Hazard shouldn't be here. This is close to the calm belt. The two looked over in shock, with disbelief on their faces. But the fact is already before her eyes. This island is Punk Hazard. How can she not believe it? Weird, because it's weird. At the same time, they also realized something. The guy who kidnapped Geisa and Monet had absolutely extraordinary strength. Speaking of it, someone who can do this kind of thing and also has great strength, it seems that such a guy did appear some time ago. Buffalo suddenly seemed to realize something and suddenly spoke. After his reminder, BABY5 and Violet instantly understood what he meant. Ah, I also remembered that there is indeed a guy who likes to play tricks. He turned the whole world upside down before entering the new world. He is a man who talks endlessly. 24. His name is Golden Lion 2, Xia Luo. Baby 5 looked gloomy and spoke slowly. As she finished speaking, the atmosphere at the scene gradually became darker. As for the rumors about Golden Lion 2, we have only read the reports in the newspapers. We don't know yet how strong this person is. No matter what, let's report the matter here to the young master first. If nothing unexpected happens, the person who left Guyana and Monet should be Golden Lion 2 Xia Luo. Violet took the lead to calm down and said in a calm tone. Although she did not join the Don Quixote family voluntarily, she is still in the family and she will still analyze it rationally. This is the only option for now. Baby 5 will contact the young master immediately and report the situation here. Buffalo calmed down, thought for a moment and then spoke. I understand, I'll send you Master Shui's phone number. Baby 5 nodded, and then took out a small phone bug from his arms. She can see clearly the serious situation now, and it is not the time to be willful. But when the phone bug was just taken out to make a call, a big hand held her hand holding the phone bug. At the same time, Violet felt a big hand hugging her waist. Oh my, were the two beauties talking about me just now? Xia Luo's frivolous words came from beside the two of them, which frightened them so much that they dared not move. Buffalo also felt that his body suddenly sank, and there was an extra person in the heavy area for no reason. After hearing Xia Luo's words, he looked frightened and couldn't help but shed a few drops of sweat. Just like that, the scene fell into deathly silence again. Violet was sweating like rain, and the sweat fell gently from her forehead. The movements in her hands stopped, and her fingers continued to tremble slightly. Her lips were tightly closed and she couldn't help but swallow. She wanted to turn her head to look, but she didn't dare. She didn't have to think about it. The person behind him must be the legendary big pirate, who was at the center of their discussion just now. Gulu. Baby 5 was the first to be unable to bear it any longer, and immediately broke free from Xia Luo's big hand. His other hand transformed into a pistol and fired 10 shots at Xia Luo's head. Clang. The sound of the bullet hitting the forehead was like the sound of gold and iron. Violet stared blankly at the sturdy BABY5 and lost her mind for a moment. How could this bitch be so mean? She shot me in the head without saying a word. Xia Luo was a little speechless after the heavy bomb. Of course he could easily dodge it with his skill, and even BABY5 couldn't break free from his grasp. However, with a playful attitude, he also wanted to see how BABY5 would react, but to his surprise, he fired directly without saying a word. This doesn't look like a pirate's style. He doesn't start talking and just kills. What? The pistol doesn't work anymore. Baby 5 made a surprised sound, and then transformed into a long sword. It looked like he wanted to split Xia Luo in half. Wait a minute, this beautiful lady. You just gave me a shot. My forehead hurts so much. Can you please blow it off for me? After Xia Luo finished speaking, the long knife stopped less than a centimeter in front of his forehead. Baby 5 lowered his head and couldn't see her expression clearly. Not good. Buffalo suddenly felt bad, and then BABY5's reaction was exactly what he thought. Help you. You mean, you need me, right? Baby 5's strong feminine aura before disappeared in an instant, replaced by 2 more blushes on her face, a smile on her face, and a shy twist. Yes, my forehead hurts so much. I need a beautiful girl to blow on it to stop the pain. Xia Luo nodded with a smile on her face. Need me? Do you need me? Baby 5's eyes were shining with excitement and flushing on his face. He immediately ran up and pulled Xia Luo's head directly to his chest. Lifting up his golden hair, he blew it gently towards the spot where he had just shot. I'm sorry, it's all because I hit it too hard. Does it still hurt? If it still hurts, I'll blow it for a while. Baby 5 asked with a blushing face. This feeling of being needed made her extremely excited, and she could not refuse Xia Luo's request. Xia Luo felt the facial cleanser on her chest and the warm breath on her forehead, and secretly gave a thumbs up in her heart. She is indeed the woman who is said to be the best in the world of pirates. She can get such benefits in just 10 sentences. Open black lens bracket 0139032224 Filu 183,562,120 close black lens bracket. It's no wonder that Doflamingo often has headaches over BABY5's affairs, and needs to constantly clean up men who confess to BABY5 because they are too easily deceived. The pain in my forehead is gone, but is there anything else you need my help with? Hearing Xia Luo's words, Baby 5's eyes flashed and he asked Xia Luo with an expectant look. Xia Luo did not live up to her expectations. She slowly raised the corners of her mouth and said, That's right, I don't need your help. What do you need me to do for you? Baby 5 looked excited and flushed on his face. It seems that my lips are a little dry. Can you kiss me and moisturize my lips? Xia Luo nodded her lips with a smile and said with a smile. Wah, what, kiss? Are you proposing to me? Although BABY5 will not refuse others, she still has common sense. If she wears it underneath, isn't she asking for a kiss? In her mind, this sentence was a disguised proposal to propose to her. She was seen holding her cheeks with both hands and squirming shyly. Seeing this, Xia Luo added, isn't it possible? No. Of course not, I'd be happy to. Xia Luo's question made her become anxious, and she responded in a panic. Then his whole body was pressed against Xia Luo's body, he closed his eyes and slowly raised his head, his lips slightly pouted, and he was about to kiss her. But from her clenched hands and furrowed brows, it was easy to see that she was not very nervous. Even though many people have confessed to her, this is her first time with kiss. Doflamingo will immediately eliminate those who propose to her. Now there is no one to stop it. Baby 5 feels that his spring and happiness are coming. BABY5, see clearly, he is an enemy. Don't do anything stupid. At this time, Buffalo, who had been silent for a long time, shouted. He didn't expect that at such a critical moment, Baby 5 would actually surrender to the enemy. At the same time, I am also puzzled that Xia Luo actually understands BABY5's character. With his reputation, he shouldn't know someone like BABY5, but I didn't expect that I would know her weaknesses clearly from the first meeting. This can make him anxious enough to stop him regardless of risking his life. Xia Luo's eyes suddenly turned cold, and Violet, who had not dared to speak next to her, seemed to feel the coldness and her body trembled. What a shame. This is my business. I'm being needed right now, and someone needs me. So shut up. Before Xia Luo could get angry, Baby 5 spoke angrily. At the same time, he kept kicking Buffalo's head with one foot. It hurts, BABY5, stop quickly, it's going to fall. In pain, Buffalo held his head with both hands, and the propeller on his head stopped. Only his feet were left to hold on, and he suddenly began to stagger. Shut up if you know you're wrong. Just be a flying tool for me. Baby 5's anger did not stop, and he was still cursing. But when he turned to look at Xia Luo the next second, his attitude had changed 180 degrees. Okay, darling, the guy in the way can't speak anymore, let me help you. Baby 5 crossed his arms, eyes shining with stars, and said expectantly. Seeing this, Xia Luo responded with a smile, her coldness dissipated, and Wei Qinkai in her arms breathed a sigh of relief. Wait, BABY5, I need you to kill the man in front of you. Buffalo, who was in pain, didn't stop. After realizing that she wanted to continue, he immediately shouted. This made BABY5 stop his movements, his expression became tangled, and he didn't know what to do for a while. What should I do? What should I do? I am needed by others. I am needed by many people. But, Baby 5's expression became more and more entangled, as the two somewhat conflicting orders left her unable to choose. His head suddenly seemed to be shut down, smoke began to emit, and his eyes became circle-like. Idiot, don't you look at the current situation. This 507 is on someone else's territory. Single quote. Seeing this, Violet secretly gritted her teeth and scolded Buffalo for being stupid. Even if BABY5 is taken back, so what, the strength of the three of them will definitely not be able to shake this man. On the contrary, such words will anger the man in front of you, and the situation will become even worse. Violet gritted her teeth and kept thinking about how to break the situation. She can't die here, she still needs to live for her country. Looking at the downed BABY5, Xia Luo was not angry. Instead, he was scratching his head to think about something, and then an idea popped into his head. His body couldn't move at all, and the words on his lips stopped. Except for the rotation of the propeller, his whole body began to tremble unconsciously. Xia Luo smiled, pointed at the buffalo beneath her, and said in a calm tone. What is this? Such a powerful spirit, it feels like facing the young master's Conqueror's Haki. Does he also have Conqueror's Haki? As long as you kill this guy, we can do it. Upon hearing this, Buffalo immediately panicked, his body shook involuntarily, and he wanted to speak to stop Baby-5. BABY5, didn't you ask me before if I was proposing to you? But when he was about to say those words, he suddenly stopped. Because, he felt a strong sense of oppression coming towards him. But he still suppressed the power. He wanted Baby 5 to kill Buffalo with his own hands and cut off the relationship with Doflamingo himself. Yes, this is Conqueror's Haki, a variant of Xia Luo mixed with dragon power. Its power of shock and entanglement is more powerful than the original Conqueror's Haki. The way to stop her is very simple, just tell her that you need her. Since Xia Luo used marrying BABY5 as an order to instruct her, he only needs to say this to let her stop. Suddenly asked, Baby 5 walked out of the confused state and looked at Xia Luo doubtfully. Buffalo yelled crazily in his heart, but in reality his body could not move. Song Neng felt helpless and furious in his heart. Baby 5 lowered his head and was silent for a while. Then when he raised his head again, his eyes were shining with light, and he nodded with a flushed face. Yes. Darling. If he wanted to, he could easily knock Buffalo out. Wait BABY5, I also. Killing the family cadre members means that BABY5 cannot return to the Don Quixote family. And Buffalo suddenly felt an icy chill. Chapter 144 easily won. Baby Five's index finger turned into the barrel of a pistol, and the muzzle pointed at Buffalo underneath him. I'm sorry, Buffalo, this is Darling's request. For Darling, I can only let you die. Baby Five put his left hand on his rosy cheek, looked shy, and said the words in the gentlest tone that made Buffalo feel the coldest. Bang bang bang. Several gunshots were fired. Buffalo rolled his eyes, vomited blood, the propeller stopped involuntarily, and his body began to slowly fall from Sky Island. But the next second, the unconscious Buffalo stopped in the air. This is not because he wakes up and turns on the propeller again, but that Xia Luo's fruit ability has been enhanced and his ability to manipulate objects has become stronger. Originally, Xia Luo couldn't make living people fly, but now that the fruit's strength has increased, he can make living people fly into the air by letting his clothes float, without the need for any objects to hold them up. This is a level that even Golden Lion has never developed. Xia Luo vaguely feels that this ability is on the verge of awakening. Xia Luo feels that as long as the fruit awakens, the range of his single control will be wider. Big, that is to say, he can control the accumulation of seawater infinitely. Before the stamina is exhausted, you can infinitely control the seawater to fly up, and you can continue to accumulate control after your stamina is restored. As long as he wants, with the continuous accumulation of days and nights, he can control the entire seawater to float. That would be a truly world-destroying destructive power. No one in the current world can resist this power. Back to the real world. The sudden feeling of weightlessness made Violet scream in panic, and then hug Xia Luo next to her tightly. This is what everyone who falls from a height does subconsciously. Baby Five also feels bad, but not to the point of shouting. She wanted to use the weapon to transform into Missile Girl's mode, and then drive away with Xia Luo. But before she could make a move, her little hand was held by Xia Luo, and then the falling buffalo suddenly stopped, giving her a foothold to stabilize her body. It's amazing, Darling, he actually made this useless guy float. It seems that no matter how big he is not useless. At least he is the best flying tool and foothold. Darling is so smart. After BABY5 stabilized his figure, he immediately squeezed to Xia Luo's side with an adoring look on his face, and then she clung to his arms sweetly and was showered with compliments one after another. Others were suspected of having rainbow farts, but it was so natural for BABY5 to say these complimentary words. Because she truly felt this way, and she sincerely praised Xia Luo without any trace of hypocrisy. It's just a basic exercise. Xia Luo smiled without any pride, and then said, now that it's no longer hindering us, it's time to finish what we just didn't finish. Yes, Darling. Baby Five's eyes showed excitement, and then he closed his eyes again and raised his head. This time I finally got what I wanted. Xia Luo held her waist tightly. After a long time, Xia Luo let her go. After letting go, she looked happy and satisfied, leaning sweetly on Xia Luo's chest. Then it's up to you, Miss Violet. Xia Luo nodded with satisfaction and turned his eyes to Wei Qingxi, who had been hugging him. At this time, she was lowering her head, her face was red, and she did not dare to look at Xia Luo. But when Xia Luo called out her name, she looked shocked, pointed at her face, and asked blankly. Do I want it too? Seeing her cute look, Xia Luo couldn't help but chuckle, and then said. Haha, Violet, a user with the stare fruit ability, a dancer of the Don Quixote family, no, I should say, a former citizen of Dressrosa. What? How did you know my identity? Violet was shocked that her details were known clearly. These things are not secrets, but it is very confusing why a big man like Xia Luo knows his identity. There is no reason, because I like you, so I know your identity. Quote. Xia Luo was so frank that he didn't lie. From the first moment he saw Violet, he really liked this woman. She has good looks, a good figure, and the character she knows from the original work. She is a very good woman. Violet was shocked after hearing Xia Luo's words. She is a person with the ability to stare at fruits and a person with eyesight. She has the ability to see through all lies. Anyone who lies in front of her is in vain. And now, she has also seen through that there is no lie in what Xia Luo said. This means that the man in front of her speaks sincerely, and is not lying or joking. Like, we just met for the first time. Talking about likes or something, isn't it a bit weird? Violet turned her head, blushing, and said shyly. After all, she is not a BABY5, and can be won by a few words. She is a little shy about the sudden confession, but will not agree directly. She is also a little curious about how Xia Luo knew her existence. There is nothing surprising. I have one advantage, and that is my special fraternity. Etc. Just as Xia Luo was about to explain, Baby Five interrupted his conversation. Baby Five looked angry and aggrieved, stared at Xia Luo, and said. Darling, didn't you say you wanted to marry me? Now why do you say you like this woman? Don't you need me anymore? Baby 5 looked aggrieved and about to cry, which made Xia Luo's heart skip a beat. It is not what a gentleman should do to make such a beautiful woman cry. He immediately coaxed. Of course not, I need you, and I will marry you in the future. Really? Then what are you going to do with this woman? When it comes to getting married, Baby 5's aggrieved expression suddenly disappears and turns back to a shy and coy expression. Of course you marry me together. As I said just now, I am a very philanthropic person. I will never let go of any woman I fall in love with. So, Baby 5, can you tolerate sharing with other women? Am I needed again? No problem. Darling can find as many women as he wants. Baby 5 will always be by Darling's side. Xia Luo's words made Baby 5 automatically formulate the request, thinking that it was needed. Baby 5 immediately agreed excitedly. With a flush on her face, she hugged Xia Luo happily again, rubbing her cheek against his chest. Dense. Wait a minute, I didn't agree to marry you, what are you talking about? After reacting, Violet yelled hurriedly. Even before she could say anything, she was about to marry Xia Luo inexplicably. If she didn't refute, she might just be pulled along. Don't refuse in a hurry, Miss Violet. You must have stayed in the Don Quixote family because you were coerced by Doflamingo, right? Don't you want to retake Dressrosa and restore that country to its former self? As a member of the Don Quixote family, you should be well aware of the darkness hidden in that country, right? Don't you want to make some changes? Xia Luo raised the corners of her mouth and said in a seductive tone. What do you mean by this? Violet's expression was stunned, and she didn't understand what Xia Luo wanted to do when she suddenly said this. Haha, what if I say that I can help Miss Violet get Dressrosa back? Let King Riku return to the throne, and this country can return to its original appearance. What? Is this true? Violet was immediately attracted, her expression was shocked, and she couldn't help but murmured. Took the bait. Single quote. Xia Luo smiled secretly in her heart. Violet's weakness is her family and the people of Dressrosa. As long as you keep this in mind, it's not a big problem to win over Violet. Of course, I can easily do all this with my strength, but I have a small request. Require. Xia Luo said nothing, and looked at her quietly with a smile, her expression self-evident. Princess Violet, you don't want your country and your father to be tortured by Doflamingo, right? Is it me? As long as I marry you, my father can return to the throne, and Dressrosa can return to her previous appearance. Violet understood what he meant and said calmly. Yes, as long as you can do it, I will give you my home. Violet closed her eyes and thought for a while, then opened her eyes with firm eyes and said decisively. Her eyes were no longer confused, but she saw hope, as if she had been suddenly. The next big prize was hit. Some people in my country are suffering all the time, but I can only watch silently and cannot make any resistance. Nothing is more painful than this. Now just by giving yourself, the country can restart again and return to the peace it once enjoyed. This is a very profitable business. And, from Xia Luo's words, Violet didn't see a trace of lies, everything he said was the truth. Whether it's liking yourself or helping to save Dressrosa, it's all true. Looking at Xia Luo's handsome face, Violet felt that this was not a loss, but a profit for herself. With such a handsome and powerful man liking her and helping her regain her country, what reason could she have not to agree? Then it's settled. I'll help you get the country back, and you'll marry me. Violet nodded shyly. Xia Luo raised his head, and Violet immediately understood what he meant and leaned forward with a rosy face. She clicked lightly, and then immediately lowered her head to prevent Xia Luo from seeing her clearly. Shy. Seeing this, Xia Luo grinned. He didn't expect that he would be so lucky today and win two women he liked at once. I have to thank Doflamingo for this. Although his purpose was not to send a woman as a gift, he got it right and gave himself a big gift, good brother Dove. Xia Luo secretly gave Doflamingo a thumbs up in her heart. You have finally done something good. For the sake of this great gift, please be gentle when you strike next time. Akiu. Doflamingo rubbed his nose. What's going on? Is it really because the weather is getting colder and I'm catching a cold? Doflamingo said doubtfully, looking at the big sun in the sky and the hot temperature around him. It makes no sense, the weather is still so hot, but why have I been sneezing so often in the past 2 days? Is it possible that I am weak? Doflamingo, who couldn't understand, shook his head and stopped thinking about it. With an evil smile on his face, he laughed while looking at the newspaper news in front of him. He has no idea that there is someone thousands of miles away who is thinking about his well-being. If he lets. He knew that he would have to kowtow 800 times to Xia Luo. Xia Luo returned to Longyu Island with Baby 5, Violet and Buffalo, who was seriously injured and unconscious. Oh, I went out not long ago, and I brought back 2 beautiful women. Should I say that you are lucky, or that you are too greedy a man? Huh, there is another man. I can't believe it. Captain Xia Luo, when did you change your taste and start to like men? Seeing Xia Luo come back, Nami wanted to go up to greet him, but saw the 2 women in his arms, frowned and said a little jealously. Then he saw Buffalo on the ground, and immediately pinched Xia Luo's delicate little face and started teasing him with a playful expression. Don't make trouble. Xia Luo glanced at her resentfully and said helplessly. Let go of darling, you are such a rude woman. Baby 5 roared angrily, and turned his right hand into a pistol and pointed it at Nami, but was immediately pressed down by Xia Luo. Go well, she looked at Xia Luo with some confusion, not understanding why she was stopping herself. Huh, darling, you're really good. It's only been so long now that you've even called darling to hook up with women. Technology has its own merits. 1. Nami was very surprised when BABY5 called her Xia Sui, and then started teasing Xia Luo. That's not because I'm too charming, and I accidentally fell in love with someone. Xia Luo shook her hair in a very disgusting way, and said with a proud look on her face. Darling is so handsome. But BABY5 liked this very much and looked at him with admiration. Tisk tisk. Nami looked disgusted. Why do you feel that this woman is not only a prostitute but also an enemy? Let me introduce you to you. This is BABY5, the maid and killer of the Don Quixote family. Now she is one of our own. Xia Luo patted the BABY5 on her body and introduced it to Nami. My name is BABY5, and I am Darling's wife. Quote. Baby 5 suddenly became very polite, and after the introduction, she looked like a girl in love. I don't even understand what I want to do. Huh, what about the person next to you, who is also your new wife? Nami looked at Violet and said a little jealously. She didn't even call herself Xia Luo's wife, and now someone is actually in front of her. Call yourself first. How could she not be jealous? She didn't give Xia Luo a good look at her father. Violet was once the princess of Dressrosa, and was later forced to join the Don Quixote family. Now she is considered one of her own. Princess. Hearing Violet's identity, Nami looked over with a strange expression. Hey, Xia Luo, you're not a princess killer, are you? First Vivi, then Reiju, then Shirahoshi, and now there's another princess from Dressrosa. There are already 4 princesses on the ship. Chapter 145. A loving father and a filial son. Doot. After Nami mentioned it like this, it seems that many of his goals are the princesses of a country. Violet's niece Rebecca is also considered the princess of Dressrosa. Yamato from Wano Kuni is also considered a princess, and there is an empress who is not a princess, but is the head of a country. Perona, who usually likes to dress up like a princess, is considered a half-princess, and she especially likes Perona's princess-cut hairstyle. When you think about it, he does seem to be a bit of a princess. Actually, it's not considered to be a princess control, isn't it, because we still have you guys? Xia Luo said with some guilt. And us. It always feels like when you say this, we are like accessories. Veins popped up on Nami's forehead, and several hash marks appeared. Everything that doesn't happen is all your illusion. Even if I am a princess lover, you are still the most beautiful princess in my mind. Baby 5 and Violet will be left to you first, so I'll go out first. Xia Luo looked ashamed, then threw away the 2 women and retreated. Don't try to argue with women on this matter, otherwise it will always be the men who suffer. TCH, did you escape? Looking at Xia Luo who had already run away, Nami curled her lips. But at least Xia Luo also gave him a 50-50 answer, so I'll let him go this time. Come with me, I'll introduce you to the situation here. Nami turned to the 2 women and said. The 2 women also nodded. From the conversation just now, it is not difficult to tell that Nami is also one of Xia Luo's women, and she is much older than them. Now that we have arrived at their territory and Xia Luo has disappeared, we can only follow Nami to take a look at the situation here. After Xia Luo slipped out of Longyu Island in a flash, she went directly to Xiaoyin's location. The sudden appearance of the breath also woke up Xiaoyin from his nap. After seeing that it was Xia Luo, he rubbed Xia Luo affectionately and called out twice. It's better for you. Xia Luo touched Xiaoyin's smooth scales and sighed. It's just the 2 of us traveling this time, so you have to support my aura. Chirped. Xia Luo turned over and jumped on Xiaoyin's back, and then Xiaoyin launched a jet and rushed thousands of meters away. Since we are going to meet the seniors, the aura is naturally indispensable. Nothing can be more exciting than taking Xiaoyin out, powerful, handsome, and invincible. 327. New World. Aboard Moby Dick, all the squad captains gathered together and looked at Whitebeard with serious expressions, waiting for his nonsense. Whitebeard, who was sitting in the main seat, looked gloomy and said nothing, as if he was thinking about something. Xia Luo and the others were able to get the news of Ace's execution from the newspaper. Of course Whitebeard, who has a big family and a big business, also learned about it immediately. Shanks came to their pirate group a few days ago to dissuade Whitebeard from letting Ace continue to pursue Blackbeard. Marshal D. Teach. The dangers of Blackbeard Teach are constantly repeated, and Whitebeard also cuts Shanks to death. Not long after this, Marine sent a message saying that he was tired in 7 days. Ace later made a public appearance. Doesn't this just confirm what Shanks said before? Moreover, Marine openly provoking the Whitebeard pirates like this must have laid a dragnet and waited for Whitebeard to come to his door. With his prestige in the New World, he will definitely come. If he doesn't come, then the oath he made to the crew when he formed the pirate group will be nothing compared to his reputation in the New World. Dad, give the order. We must get Ace back, and we must not let guys like Marine succeed. When Marco saw his father's expression, he thought he was hesitating whether to save Ace or not, and immediately shouted anxiously. That's right, father, give the order. Ace is our brother. Now our brother is in trouble, how can we just stand by and watch? Other opposing captains also agreed and tried their best to persuade Whitebeard. This can be regarded as the cohesion of the Whitebeard pirates. Everyone did not consider their own life safety, they just wanted to save their brothers. Don't panic. We are definitely going to rescue Ace. But we can't act recklessly. Based on what I know about this guy Sengoku, he will definitely set up a dragnet in naval headquarters. If you rush forward rashly, you will only suffer a big loss. Although Ace is very important, I don't want to see you get hurt. Whitebeard and Sengoku can be said to be old rivals. He also knows Sengoku's methods well, and he knows nothing more about the insidiousness of this old rival. What he was thinking about just now was not thinking about whether to save Ace, but thinking about how to save Ace without causing too many casualties to the pirate group. After hearing this, the captains of the squadrons also breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the father is still a familiar father. It's just that you should be more cautious about Marine's provocation this time. If it were someone else, they would rush forward without saying a word. Maybe Marine put too much pressure on him this time, and he also began to think about how to reduce casualties and save the lives of more people in the pirate group. But Marco and the others couldn't think of any good way for a while, and they were very concerned about Ace, their brother, so they all expressed their concern immediately. Dad, don't worry about us. Ace is our brother. Fighting for your brother is worth it even if you die. Whitebeard looked at Marco and the others. Everyone was smiling and showing determination in their eyes, and they laughed heartily for a while. Gu la 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 la. Marco, what are you talking about? You are all my sons. Isn't it my duty as a father to think about my son? Ace will definitely rescue him. But you all need to come back safely too. Dad. The captains' eyes were filled with confusion, and the more serious ones were crying bitterly. How could they not be touched that his father cared so much about him? Don't worry, Dad, we will definitely rescue Brother Ace. Some crew members and captains covered their eyes, tears flowing out uncontrollably, and shouted in unison. Gula la la la. Whitebeard looked at his sons with a smile on his face, and there was indescribable tenderness in his eyes. For a time, a scene of loving father and filial piety was staged here. But at this moment, 10 voices came from the sky at an inappropriate time. Oh, this is really a touching picture. Who's talking? The crew members of the Whitebeard pirates, who were interrupted by the sound, scanned the surroundings vigilantly, but the sea was empty and no trace of the enemy was seen. Up there. The squad captains and Whitebeard immediately looked up following the sound. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates also raised their heads. Under the bright and dazzling sunlight, a huge black shadow is located at the very center of the sun. Against the backdrop of the sunlight, no one can see clearly the true appearance of the black shadow. All that could be vaguely seen was a huge black image of a dragon-shaped creature, and there was a person standing on the head of this creature, whose appearance was also unclear. Damn it, who are you? You actually dare to come to the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. Do you also want to challenge Dad? The crew members of the Whitebeard pirates began to shout, and their attitude could be described as very arrogant. After all, this is Whitebeard's territory. The strength may be lacking, but the momentum cannot be lacking. Who else but Xia Luo could come to the waters of the Whitebeard pirates at this time and interrupt the family gathering so arrogantly? The captains of the divisions did not speak, staring at Xia Luo's figure. They all felt an amazing sense of oppression from their bodies. This is like facing your own father. It must be unusual for someone with such strength to dare to come to the Whitebeard pirates at this time. However, they were currently unable to identify Xia Luo's identity. Only Marco looked at the somewhat familiar figure of Long Yan. His eyes suddenly widened, and then he looked at him very warily. If you dare to come to Whitebeard's territory to challenge our pirate group, don't think we will let you go easily. One of the crew members couldn't help but took out his pistol and pointed it at Xia Luo's figure. Etc. Marco had just spoken, but it was still a step too late. The crew member had already pulled the trigger, and the bullet hit Xia Yao accurately. It's not at all like the level of the miscellaneous soldiers in Summit War, who can't even hit a single person with 100 rounds of bullets. The crew member still didn't hear what Marco said clearly. When he came back to his senses, he looked at Marco in confusion, as if asking, what did you just say? Marco, this is not like you normally. You are so nervous. Why? Do you know that person? Foil. Bista was a little surprised by Marco's nervous state, so he asked. As the crew member said, this is their Whitebeard's territory. As for being afraid of him alone, there is still Dad here. But Marco shook his head and said seriously, well, I do know this person, and you should have heard of him. Hey, you gave me a big gift when you came here. I haven't seen you for a few days. I'm fine, Brother Ma. This person is the Golden Lion to Xia Luo, who made a lot of noise some time ago. Xia Luo and Marco spoke at the same time, and also lowered their flying altitude. The gunman's pistol didn't do him any harm at all, not even a tickle, and I didn't even bother to look at it. Nani, is he actually the successor of that Haki? After hearing Marco's words, the team captains also looked at Xia Luo with wide eyes. After lowering their altitude for a certain distance, they finally saw his face clearly. Exactly the same as the one on the bounty, blonde, handsome, and lazy. Who would have thought that the man in front of him was as powerful as his father? Marco, when did you meet this guy? Beasta looked nervous and unconsciously held two long swords. Hearing Xia Luo say hello just now, he must know Marco. This is a bit strange. It seems that he has not mentioned Xia Luo. Didn't I tell you a few days ago that I met you there when I went to the Fishman Island? You guys drank too much and didn't hear me at all, right? Marco explained helplessly. Really? Beasta immediately started to pretend to be dumbfounded and held his head in embarrassment. It was obvious that he was stupid when he mentioned that he had drunk too much that night. So, can you tell me your reason for coming? Sir Xia Luo, if you don't have a good reason, please leave our Whitebeard territory as soon as possible. Marco sighed, then looked at Xia Luo with a serious and vigilant look, and asked. He didn't want to get into trouble with Xia Luo at this time. The battle with Marine was coming, and he wanted to avoid unnecessary battles as much as possible in order to preserve the strength of the pirate group. Whitebeard remained silent, silently looking at the high-spirited Xia Luo in the sky. He saw from Xia Luo. Reached the shadow of an old friend. Although they have always disliked each other, they are still old acquaintances. People begin to miss each other when they get older. This reminded him of the scene when he was young and galloping on the sea, fighting Roger and the others. Oh, after all, we are good friends who have had drinks together. Why are we so anxious to chase people away? Xia Luo put her arm around Marco's shoulders familiarly, acting like a good buddy. Marco looked at him speechlessly with his dead fish eyes that had not changed for 10,000 years. This is the famous world's strongest man, Whitebeard Edward Newgate. I often hear Mr. Haki talking about you. Xia Luo turned to look at Whitebeard, and at the same time, the powerful Conqueror's Haki emitted from him, instantly covering the entire Moby Dick. No, come again, the crew members of the Whitebeard pirates exclaimed. Some pirates with weak psychological endurance fell down one after another. The powerful cadres couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. No, this is even stronger than the Conquerors the red hair gave out back then. Captain Izo of the 16th Division used his hands to resist the strong wind and couldn't help but take a step back. What a mighty Conqueror's Haki. Cold sweat ran down Beasta's face, and Chen Qing looked at Xia Luo nervously. Boom. At this time, a powerful Conqueror's Haki also emerged from Whitebeard's body, and instantly collided with Xia Luo's Conqueror's Haki. Visible black lightning and invisible Conqueror's shock began to fill the ship. However, it only lasted for 2 seconds. Conqueror's Haki suddenly dissipated, and the clouds in the sea area were also blown away by the strong wind. Hey, what did you do? Marco said with a dead look on his face. What are you doing? Isn't this a normal greeting? You came up here and used Conqueror's Haki to stun the young people on our ship. Are you trying to start a fight? Hearing Xia Luo's words, Marco was even more speechless. Who knows how to say hello with Conqueror's Haki? Do you think Conqueror's Haki is Yukai? Isn't that so? I thought that when you 4 emperors met, you would greet each other with a Conqueror's Haki first, or say hello with Conqueror's Haki. This was also the case last time I was at Charlotte Linlin's place. Chapter 146. Why does Lousy like leopard print? The first time Xia Luo met her aunt was when she suffered from pyrexia. At that time, the aunt happened to send out a sonic roar and Conqueror's Haki due to her mental disorder. At that time, Xia Luo also used her own dragon power, Conqueror's Haki, as a greeting. After hearing this, everyone looked speechless. They had known that Xia Luo would make a big fuss at the aunt's tea party. But he didn't expect that he would be so stupid, and attack Conquerors and Ba Tang first when meeting the Emperor-level combat power. It's a shame he could say it. No, it seems that when the red hair came a few days ago, he also released Conqueror's Haki. When I think of it before, it seemed that what was going on was indeed happening, and everyone's speechlessness gradually turned into understanding. Gu la 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 la, good job, kid, it looks like old guy Haki has found a good disciple. Whitebeard laughed out loud, a genuine smile. It had been a long time since anyone had made him feel this interesting. When the 4 emperors meet, will they always attack with Ba Tang and Conqueror's Haki first? Ha ha ha, wasn't it like this before between him and Roger? Every time they met, they will all attack first, and then start the battle. Mr. Haki, it's a pity that he couldn't withstand it, but it doesn't matter. I will help him fulfill his ambitions and wishes. Speaking of Haki, Xia Luo also had a look of regret on her face. Although we have only known each other for less than 2.5 years, it is still a bit sad that he is the teacher who leads him after all. Ha 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 ha, interesting kid, tell me, what do you want to do when you come to Lousy? If you want to come to fight, Lousy is always with you. This made Marco and the others anxious. This situation is not the time to fight with Xia Luo. Dad, Marco and others wanted to stop him, but Xia Luo immediately said, No, I said before, I'm not here to fight this time. If it's not a fight, then why did you come to Lousy? Whitebeard looked over with a strange look, as if asking, if you don't want to fight with Lousy, why don't you come here to chat with Lousy? But Xia Luo really came here to chat, mainly to meet this legendary figure in the comics. You can't understand it just by reading comics and listening to Golden Lion. Only when you actually stand on these guys at the top of the sea can you feel their courage. It's been a long time since I last met Senior Whitebeard, so I came to meet you, Senior. Xia Luo took out a large bottle of wine from the space and threw it to Whitebeard. Whitebeard opened the cap and smelled it. The Fishman Island special wine is good wine. I just didn't enjoy it a few days ago. Whitebeard grinned and started drinking. Captain, you can't drink anymore. The blonde nurse on the side walked to him and persuaded him. Just now, Xia Luo and Whitebeard's Conqueror's Haki attack had a tacit understanding of bypassing these nurses. Whitebeard is surrounded by a medical team composed of all beautiful nurses. They all have one thing in common. That's all pink nurse uniforms and leopard print stockings. Who said that? Just this little wine won't damage your body. Whitebeard showed an impatient look and cursed, looking like he would be in a hurry with anyone who didn't let me drink. I'm so envious. I can actually find so many beautiful ladies as my ship's doctors, and everyone wears nurse uniforms with leopard print. Is this your peculiar hobby? Stop saying such stupid things. With your strength, you can get as many women as you want. When he was captured, he had an annoying face. Quote. Whitebeard looked at him sideways, with a look of disgust on his face. Are you envious of my handsome face? That's right. After all, they are all decades old, so it's natural for them to envy my good looks. Whitebeard made a secret sound, and then said very willfully. Smelly brat, what kind of fetishes does Lousy have to do with you? Lousy just likes leopard print. Recently, more and more hospitals are asking nurses to wear pants. It's really sad and makes me want to cry. That's why Lousy let every nurse on the ship wear a uniform like this. Xia Luo rubbed her chin. It made sense. Compared to a nurse wearing pants, wearing a nurse uniform and leopard print stockings was a bit weird, but it was more beautiful than wearing pants. Reminiscent of Whitebeard's old lover Bajingam Stussy, it seems that she also wears a leopard print coat all year round. It is not difficult to see that Whitebeard has been fond of leopard print since he was a child. What a willful old man. He recommended his fetish to the nurse on the ship. If it were me, I would still like the young lady not to wear it. How about it? Are the beautiful ladies over there interested in joining my ship? Xia Luo flipped her hair coquettishly and said with a gentle face. This made Brother Ma next to him push him away in disgust. You kid, you have no right to criticize me. But I have heard that you, kid, don't even have a decent crew on the ship. They are all made up of women. The only men on the ship are Shiki's old subordinates and a few brats from world government, so you're considered a Haika. Whitebeard's eyes became even more disgusting. Even the squad leaders looked at Xia Luo with dead eyes. They also couldn't understand why, with Xia Luo's status, there were not many serious subordinates. Since her debut, the crew members have all been women. What they most often see about Xia Luo in the news is that he robbed a certain country's princess, or robbed a certain female celestial dragons. Especially when I saw the bounty offered by Xia Luo and his team for the first time, my jaw dropped. They were all women, and all of them were beautiful beauties. This was really enviable. But envy is envy. No matter how beautiful a woman is, how can she be as good as her brothers? Haha, thank you Mr. Xia Luo for the invitation. You are also very handsome. You are my type. However, I am currently on the medical team on Whitebeard's ship and I cannot leave at will. The beautiful nurse with blonde hair and wavy hair showed a kind and gentle smile and responded. The other beautiful nurses behind her also chuckled and showed great interest in Xia Luo. The Whitebeard pirates are all rough guys, and none of them are handsome. Izo, who is slightly better looking, is still a geisha shemale, and Ace, the other good-looking one, is no longer on the ship. It's hard not to be excited by these beautiful nurses. That's such a shame. Xia Luo shook his head regretfully. He was just chatting casually, not serious, it was just a habit of seeing beautiful young ladies. Haha, just go if you want to, it doesn't matter. At this time, Whitebeard chuckled and said with a casual expression. What, Dad, without the medical team, what should you do with your physical condition? Whitebeard's casual words shocked the squad leaders. This is one of the few women on their ship. Are they going to be given to a stinky guy like Xia Luo? They can't accept this. By the way, Oda said in an interview that Whitebeard likes leopard print, and I found out that he is a quite willful old man, and it is also one of the few dark histories of Whitebeard. Liquor. Captain Whitebeard, what are you doing? The nurses in the medical class were also stunned. They didn't expect Whitebeard to persuade them to leave at this time. This ship can only carry men who are about to go to the Sea of Duel. Women are so much in the way. It would be better if you get off the boat as soon as possible. Whitebeard was so angry that he tore off the medical equipment that was used to delay the disease and shouted loudly. The tone was filled with an aura that made the squad leader's blood boil. Yes, they are about to go to the naval headquarters. What is the use of bringing these powerless women? Women will only affect the speed at which I can draw my sword. That's right, women are too much of a nuisance. It's better to get off the boat as soon as possible. Marco also smiled in relief at this time and agreed. He understood what his father meant. In this battle for naval headquarters, no matter whether the outcome was a win or a loss, these women would not play any role, and would instead put them in a dangerous situation. They are not the crew of the Whitebeard pirates, they are just a temporary medical team, but they have been there for a while. There is no need to involve these people who have helped them in this war. There's no way Dad would let women be aboard this ship as combatants. But what Marco didn't know was that Whitebeard was actually ready to die. It seems you are ready to wake up. Marco didn't know, but Xia Luo, who had read the original work, knew what Whitebeard meant and said meaningfully. Isn't this natural? Everyone here has already realized it. We will definitely rescue Ace. Diamond. Josie raised his fist, his eyes were firm, and he shouted with passion. That's right. That's right. The people on the boat all agreed. Whitebeard looked at the scene in front of him, with endless tenderness in his eyes. That's it. I understand. Thank you very much for taking care of me these 2 years. I wish you a safe journey. The blonde nurse with big waves lowered her head and was silent for a while. When she raised her head again, she was relieved and blessed with a gentle look on her face. Several other nurses looked at each other, and then smiled at each other. ... Asterisk 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 asterisk. Well, Master Xia Luo, now that we are homeless and weak women, I wonder if you are still willing to let us weak women join you. The nurses gave Xia Luo a few winks and asked in seductive tones. Now that Whitebeard is no longer a great patron, it's time to find a new patron, and Xia Luo is a good choice in front of him. Handsome, young and rich, that ordinary woman doesn't want to have anything super friendship with Xia Luo. Of course, I'm always welcome here. Xia Luo spread her hands and welcomed with a smile. Unexpectedly, I just wanted to meet this legendary pirate before the summit war, but instead the beautiful nurses on his ship came over. Xia Luo never has too many beauties, and Ah Kwang is a team of experienced nurses. He may not be able to use it, but he can't live without it. Then please give me some advice from now on, Captain Xia Luo. The blonde man with big waves playfully winked at Xia Luo. The other beautiful nurses also looked at Xia Luo lovingly, except that there were no pink hearts around them. TCH, he looks a bit more handsome. A group of old men whispered in a sour tone. Haha, you just envy me for being a teacher. Xia Luo gave them a middle finger and hugged the nurse with long red hair and short blue hair in a showy manner. What an infuriating brat, get the hell back to your territory. Whitebeard looked very disgusted, and so did the team captains. Xia Luo picked his ears and turned a deaf ear. These people are so angry that their teeth are itching. 0. Okay, I won't stay here to eat. Who wants to keep you here to eat? Brother Ma protested one after another. I'll give you some support before I leave. Here's a trick, Marine must have set up a dragnet waiting for you to come. It's definitely difficult to attack from the front. Even if you attack, you will suffer heavy losses. Single quote. Xia Luo, who took over the medical class of the Whitebeard regiment, did not just slap her butt and leave, but planned to give Whitebeard and others a suggestion. Nonsense, of course we know this, that's why we have a headache. Do you think anyone has the strategic ability of lion fruit like you? Marco was also scratching his head with a headache. In fact, he didn't think of any good solution. If it doesn't work, they can only break through the Marine's protective screen directly. Even though they were in trouble, with their father's fruit ability still there, they were not too panicked. Hehe, although there is nothing you can do about it, you can go to the sea. Xia Luo smiled, and the method he gave was exactly the way Whitebeard attacked in the original work. Go to the sea. Marco didn't understand what it meant at first, but he soon understood. By the way, since it's difficult to break through from the front, the sky can't help it, so it's really a good idea to do it in the sea. In the sea, he will definitely not give up Shock Fruit's ability to Blackbeard, but plans to keep it in his pocket. Marco's eyes lit up. This could indeed bypass a lot of unnecessary troubles and reach the core of naval headquarters. He didn't do it for no reason, but to ensure that the plot progressed like the original work. Whitebeard couldn't help but mutter to himself. Seeing the people who were meditating, Xia Luo nodded with satisfaction. Kid, you've done me a big favor. Tell me, whatever you want, as long as I have it, I can give it to you. But according to the method of the Alabasta royal family, it is difficult to find Shock Fruit's ability after Whitebeard's death. Whitebeard turned to look at Xia Luo, stood up from his chair, and walked in front of Xia Luo. Oh, standing at a height of 6.66 meters is quite oppressive, of course, only for others. Whitebeard took a special look at Xia Luo, and actually gave them a good suggestion at a critical moment, which was a timely help. He had a new idea. The power of Whitebeard's shock fruit was really good, and he planned to take this fruit into his bag. With the disturbance of his little butterfly, he didn't know whether Whitebeard would still progress as in the original story, so he just mentioned this plan casually. So he took a new approach and thought of a new method, and Whitebeard was his first experimental subject. Whitebeard waved his hand and directly ordered his sons to start doing things. It's a good plan. I didn't expect you, a brat, to have such a bright mind. Everyone raised their arms and shouted, eyes filled with excitement and hope, feeling more confident about rescuing Ace. Go find the coding craftsman immediately, without delay. Chapter 147. Can you call yourself a young man if you are not angry? What do you want? Xia Luo rubbed her chin and thought seriously for a while, then said with an indifferent expression. No, I'm not here to ask for your advice or reward. Now I can do what you can do on my own, and I can do what you can't do. This statement immediately shocked everyone on the ship. No one dared to speak to Whitebeard like this. And he actually said that he could do things that Whitebeard couldn't do. Are you an idiot? You actually talk to Dad like this? Marco said straightforwardly. Whitebeard looked seriously at Xia Luo, who was a few steps lower than him, and slowly said. Kid, you are very arrogant. You dare to talk nonsense in front of me. Young man, please don't be too arrogant. Haha, how can I be called a young man if I'm not so angry? Everyone was silent again and looked at the very young-looking Xia Luo. At such a young age, he already possesses power that others cannot obtain in their lifetime. Xia Luo does have the arrogance. Ha 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 ha, sure enough, you kid is really interesting. Yu Huo laughed heartily. But I don't really want to owe others any favors. Marco, go take that out. Whitebeard turned to look in Marco's direction. Hearing this, Marco also looked serious and nodded. Then he walked back to the cabin alone, seemingly to take out something extremely important. After a while, Xia Luo reappeared in front of him, holding 4 rolls of paper in his hand, which should be recording something. Xia Luo guessed it was a treasure map or something. Although I didn't use this thing myself, it seemed like a good experience to find treasures. May 13th, but soon his expectations were dashed, and instead he showed a look of surprise. Kid, I know what you are planning, but it doesn't matter, I don't care about this thing either. After Whitebeard took the paper from Marco, he threw it directly to Xia Luo. After Xia Luo took it, he opened the paper and saw the content on it with a confused look. This is the rubbing text of the historical text. Could it be the red historical text? Rubbing text, Xia Luo said in a surprised tone, and then looked at Whitebeard in disbelief. Why, I'm not interested in One Piece or anything like that. Family is the most important thing to me. I'm not interested in the history of hundreds of years ago. I just collected it accidentally before, but you probably need this very much. There is only one text in the red historical text. You have that Ohara survivor on your ship, so you should be able to read these contents. Just like Odin. Single quote. Whitebeard said calmly, saying the last sentence to himself in his heart. Thank you. This thing is indeed very important to me, so I accepted it without mercy. Xia Luo casually put a few historical texts into the storage space, and Whitebeard and others were not surprised. They are also people who have seen a lot of the world. Even they have not fully explored the magic of this sea. The ability to make objects disappear does not surprise them. Xia Luo whistled, and the celestial comet dragon in the sky immediately understood, and then rapidly descended and stopped on the Moby Dick layer. Only then did everyone see what this giant dragon looked like. With its smooth metal scales, Haki's exposed eyes, sharp sword-like spear wings, and handsome appearance, the entire dragon gave off a very oppressive sense of danger when standing there. Everyone noticed the oppression on Tian Huilong and praised Tian Huilong's strength. Xia Luo motioned to several nurses to go up first. Anything else? Seeing that Xia Luo had no intention of leaving, Whitebeard immediately asked. Yes, I have heard your name from Mr. Shiki a long time ago. After I went to sea, your legend was spread everywhere on the sea. So, you don't want to be Laozi's son, do you? Whitebeard looked at him with a strange look. Shiki's disciple became his son, what does that mean? Stop joking, do you want me to laugh to death so that you can seize my property after my death? Xia Luo was also speechless. It seemed that Whitebeard's habit of wanting to make people his sons was still unabated. But he has no interest in being a son to others. Then what else do you have to do? If you fart, hurry up. Whitebeard also said impatiently. That is your title of the strongest man in the world. I question the authenticity of this title. Come and have a fight with me. Xia Luo grinned and spoke provocative words. What? Golden Lion too, aren't you a little too arrogant? It's my father you are facing. You actually spoke so rudely. Whitebeard still didn't respond. His sons couldn't sit still and jumped out to speak angrily. It seems that he can't help but want to take action. That's right, some of these guys have lived with Whitebeard for decades since they were young. They have long regarded Whitebeard as a spiritual pillar and do not allow anyone to be rebellious. It doesn't matter. Whitebeard reached out to stop his angry sons and looked at Xia Luo calmly. Just in time, I also want to try this kid's strength. The newspapers boasted about it so much. I hope he won't disappoint me too much. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard also grinned at this time, showing a smile with the same crescent moon symbol as his beard. Xia Luo was silent, pulled out her double swords, and then controlled the nano-titanium alloy merged the 2 swords into a giant spear. This shape is similar to the barbarian dragon used by Inuyasha, but it is larger. They are both knives with wide blades and long handles. Whitebeard also took out his supremely sharp sword, Kong Yunchi. The two of them had a tacit understanding of Conqueror's Haki, looking at each other closely, and Kakuzu grinned. The other members of the Baituan watched the two men nervously, a drop of sweat slowly flowing down from their heads. Clatter. Sweat dripped to the ground, and the two of them started to move at the same time. Drink. The giant spear and broadsword slashed out at the same time, and black lightning spread across both sides of the blade. Bang. Powerful air waves impacted the surrounding sea areas. Clatter. Clatter. With Moby Dick as the center, it seems that the water level next to it is constantly increasing, and it is as if it is in the center of Uzumaki. However, no matter how turbulent the water level next to it is, there is no trace of it falling in the face of the strong wind hit by conquerors. Everyone used their hands to block the situation in front of them and watched the confrontation between the two through the gap. Conqueror's impact. This guy has not only mastered the technique of domination, but his intensity is also so high. No wonder he can cause an uproar at Auntie's tea party. Marco said through gritted teeth, staring at Xia Luo. Xiao Yin propped up his head and used his body to resist the conqueror's breath coming from the two of them, so as not to faint the beautiful nurses on his back. The storm of conqueror's impact lasted for a full 5 seconds, and the black lightning shrank to ultimate and then exploded. Boom boom. Another strong gust of wind struck, and the high waves were blown down, and then formed an even bigger wave. Whoosh. Tian Weilong's pair of spear wings instantly extended into 2 long knives, and he waved them twice very cleanly. Click. The wall of spray water was like a piece of paper, split into 2 halves in an instant. 2 ocean currents just passed by the Moby Dick and fell heavily toward the ocean, spraying water in all directions and splashing on everyone on board. The boat was shaken by the current, but no one cared. Everyone was staring at the 2 people in the center. Good job, kid. Not bad, old man. They both praised in unison. Ha 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 ha. After saying that, the 2 of them laughed at the same time. Especially Whitebeard, who laughs so freely. This duel with Xia Luo reminded him of the competition with the big pirates when he was young, especially guys like Roger, Shiki, and Big Mom. Xia Luo turned the giant spear back into a pair of swords and then retracted the scabbard, jumped onto Xiao Yin's shoulder, and took out another bean from the storage space. This thing is exactly the fairy beans he got from signing in a long time ago. Due to the existence of the steel balloon and various subsequent rewards that increased physical fitness and defense, he lost the opportunity to use these beans. Xia Luo threw the fairy beans towards Whitebeard, who took it, grabbed it with 2 fingers, held it in front of his eyes and looked at it carefully, and then asked doubtfully. Beans. Lousy is not a vegetarian, and just one is not enough to fit between Lousy's teeth. Whitebeard looked disdainful and threw the beans aside in disgust. Don't underestimate this bean, it can save you at a critical moment. As long as you are not completely dead, after eating this bean, you can instantly recover from all injuries and regain your physical strength. You don't need to eat for 10 days. It can be said that this bean is a supreme secret treasure. Seeing Whitebeard's disgust, Xia Luo shrugged and introduced the roll of fairy beans to him. Nani? Just this little bean? Are you sure you're not lying to me? Whitebeard looked unbelieving and looked at Xia Luo with questioning eyes. The effect was really too magical. He has traveled across the ocean for so many years and has never heard of such a powerful pill. Now Xia Luo says that a small bean can instantly restore all injuries. How can he believe this? I have no reason to lie to you. I don't have much of this stuff, so I'm reluctant to give it to you if you don't want it. Xia Luo rolled her eyes at him and said disdainfully. If it's so precious, why did you give me this bean? Whitebeard still had some doubts, but he was also very confused as to why Xia Luo gave himself the beans that had such a miraculous effect. Haha, of course it is to make this drama performance more interesting. Xia Luo said slowly with a weird smile. Then he patted Xiao Yin's neck. The latter understood and quickly took off into the air. He quickly flew away from this sea area. Interesting. Shiki's successor. Young blood. Haha. Roger, as you said, this sea belongs to these young people in the future. Someone will eventually find the treasure and overturn the world. Whitebeard looked at the sky and murmured softly. The sky was clear, with the waves at his back that had not completely calmed down. Whitebeard seemed to have returned to the moment when he and Roger drank under the sakura tree. Memories came in like a tide, swimming through his mind, and finally turned into a smile on his lips. Haha, what a cunning little devil. Xia Luo flew towards Longyu Island quickly in Xiaoyan. Since there were also medical class nurses with average physiques on the ship, Xiaoyan did not dare to fly at full speed, otherwise these people would be burned to ashes by the flames generated by the impact of the air. The beans he gave Whitebeard before were considered a whim. In the original novel, Sengoku and Garp didn't even take action, and Whitebeard had already stopped in front of the execution platform. Although the big reason was the damage caused by the sword of the big filial son, the whirlpool spider Skuyard. It is also due to the fact that some are old and frail and their strength is no longer at its peak. The fairy bean given by Xia Luo was just to see how she could fight a Kainu. After taking a fight, Whitebeard recovers all the damage, beats up a Kainu and then starts a battle with Sengoku and others. It must be very interesting to see the full strength of Whitebeard in his old age. I wonder how interesting it would be for Marine and Blackbeard to see the expressions on Whitebeard's face when he took out the fairy beans and returned to full strength when he was about to die. Robin's bedroom is also well chosen. The room is large, but almost entirely filled with bookshelves and cabinets for collecting books. No matter 2.5 whether Whitebeard dies or not in this war, he will still have a way to get the shock fruit. Nami looked speechless as Xia Luo came back with a bunch of beauties. He was no longer able to complain about this man's romantic luck. He plans to watch the live broadcast from high altitude to see how the drama called Summit War, led by Whitebeard and Marine, will turn out. All in all, it was a perfect arrangement. After a full night of wine and dinner, Xia Luo stopped Robin and went back to the bedroom with her. After Xia Luo settled all the nurses in the medical class, he also asked Indigo to teach these nurses when he had time. After all, there are no injured or sick people in Xia Luo's team, so they are still very free. The place where she usually works is also filled with sheets of books and papers, and there is a dim small lamp on the table. On the same day, 2 batches of beauties with different styles came one after another. In the morning it was a dancer and a maid, and in the evening it was a nurse. As for his previous plan to get the shock fruit from Whitebeard, he put it aside. The light shines on an open book, and there is a notepad next to it, which is recording some research information. With such a group of beautiful nurses, they can help me do research during the day and do whatever I have to do at night. Ahem. His chance of using this fairy bean is infinitely equal to 0. With his protection, he believes that the chance of the people on the ship using the fairy bean is also 0. If he dies, then he can directly implement the original plan. If he doesn't die, it will be just right to have another battle with Whitebeard, but that will be the last battle in his life. Xia Luo feels very interesting when she thinks about it. The words he left behind before leaving also meant the same thing. Return to Longyu Island. Therefore, Xia Luo plans to arrange for these nurses to study biology and chemistry with Indigo. That's why Xia Luo said it was a whim, and it didn't matter even if she gave Whitebeard such precious medicine as fairy beans. Chapter 148 Extraordinary Talent. Captain Xia Luo, is there anything you need to discuss with me alone? Robin asked confused. Originally, she planned to come back after dinner to continue studying history and ancient characters, but unexpectedly, Xia Luo suddenly stopped her and went back to the bedroom with her. She doesn't worry about anything. If Xia Luo really has any bad intentions, she doesn't have to wait until now. He still abides by the rules. He, of course I'm here to fulfill my promise. Xia Luo smiled evilly. Promise. A question mark popped up in Robin's head, but he still couldn't remember what it was. Then she saw Xia Luo take out 4 rolls of paper, and instantly realized what they were. As this, a historical text. 4 historical texts at once. Captain Xia Luo, where did you get it? With excitement, Robin took the 4 rubbings of historical texts with slightly trembling hands. Let's not talk about that for now, the historical text this time is different. It's different. Could it be the red historical text? Robin's pupils dilated and he looked at the prison in disbelief. One of the 4 historical texts was a legendary red historical text, and she felt as if happiness hit her head. Excitedly, he spread the rubbing text on the ground and carefully studied the information of these words with the help of the subtle light of the desk lamp. Xia Luo silently helped her turn on the lights in the room. Thanks. After Robin gently thanked him, he continued to study the information in the historical text with his head lowered. Xia Luo sat bored on her bed, quietly watching Robin's concentrated research. Robin was kneeling on the ground, with his butt facing Xia Luo's direction, and would move every time he looked at a place. And she was still wearing a black sleeveless short dress, similar to the one she wore 2 years later. Xia Luo had a panoramic view of this scene, but Robin did not notice anything unusual and concentrated on studying it. Suddenly, the corner of Xia Luo's mouth tilted, and a bad idea came to her mind. She stood up and quietly approached Robin. Robin, who was concentrating on his research, did not notice Xia Luo's approach, and did not react until he noticed something unusual. 24 inches. Yeah, Captain Xia Luo, what are you doing? Robin turned her head with a blushing face and saw Xia Luo's face with a smirk. Hey, Robin-chan, you haven't forgotten our previous agreement. Now I have completed it, so you should also fulfill your promise. Robin's face turned red and he hurriedly tried to stand up, but was suppressed by Xia Luo. Well, of course I remember, but Captain Xia Luo, can you wait a moment? I want to finish interpreting the information in these historical texts first. Robin bit her lower lip and whispered shyly. No. Xia Luo looked serious and refused sternly. Captain Xia Luo, wait a minute. Before she could finish speaking, her mouth was blocked by Xia Luo, and then Robin could only let out a helpless whimper. Robin had no choice but to let Xia Luo manipulate him. He couldn't resist and could only cooperate. In this way, I completed the first transformation of my favorite historical text. The night passed. Xia Luo opened his eyes and looked at Robin nestling next to his chest, with a satisfied smile on his face. Robin in her 20s is different from Nami in her teens. They are already fully developed. Xia Luo gently pulled out her arm, but did not wake Robin up. She was so tired last night that no big noise woke her up. Pulling up the quilt to cover her shoulders, she looked at Robin, who was sleeping with the corner of his mouth raised. It seemed that he was having a good dream. Xia Luo smiled and gently touched her forehead. Then he got up, put on his clothes and walked out of the room. As soon as he walked out, he ran into Nami. It seems that you gained a lot yesterday. Not only did you kidnap dancers, maids, nurses, but you also captured Sister Robin. Have you already obtained the red historical text and completed your agreement with Sister Robin? Nami's expression was meaningful and he said playfully. You know me, there's nothing I won't do with Robin. Xia Luo shrugged. She and Nami were already an old couple, and she and Robin were already sisters, so these words were just a tease for him. Quote question mark. It seems that Whitebeard got a lot of good things yesterday. I thought you just brought back those nurses. Nami looked as if that was indeed the case. What's wrong? Are you jealous? Do you want to take a nap? Xia Luo pushed Nami against the door, lowered her head and teased. It depends on how much fun you had last night. Is it okay? Nami tugged on his clothes and pulled him closer. How can a man say no? I'll let you see if it works now. Xia Luo's eyes suddenly became sharp. After saying this, he picked up Nami and put her on his shoulders, opened the door and walked inside. Hey, I'm just kidding you. It's already late and I won't go out early. Do you want me to be laughed at? Seeing Xia Luo's posture, Nami panicked. She slapped Xia Luo's back hard and shouted loudly. With her Thunder Fruit ability, it is not impossible to run away, but she will still be caught up by Xia Luo, who has the ability to make thunder. This is more of a symbolic resistance. Humph, regret now, it's too late. Bang, the door closed. 2 hours later, the two men appeared again. But this time, Nami came out holding her waist. In comparison, Xia Luo was much more energetic. The two people who came out again happened to run into Robin at this time. Haha, it looks like you guys had a good morning. Now Robin can be described as radiant, and her temperament, body, and behavior all reveal a mature beauty. It is completely different from the elegant beauty she looked like before. Now she looks more like an enhanced version. My waist almost broke, Nami said helplessly, holding her waist. How you lasted all night is incredible. It was precisely after seeing the power of Xia Luo that Nami was so impressed with how Robin did it. Talent. Robin tapped his lips as if thinking, then said with a smile. In fact, she was completely cheating, and the ability of flower fruit was developed by her to reach the point 2 years later in the original work. Now with her strength, she can create 3 or 4 clones at close range, and there can be more, but with her current strength, she cannot do more. The bodies cloned from flower fruit are connected to the main body. If they are injured, they will be felt by the main body. The physical body will not be hurt, but the pain will be transmitted. After hearing this, Nami also looked at Robin with envy. Can you get one for her if she has such a talent? Dressrosa. After 2 days, Xia Luo finally got around to it. What a gift Doflamingo gave him. As a traditional virtue of XX people, how could he not return the gift in return? In the bustling city and the crowded streets, countless civilians are laughing and laughing. But in such a peaceful atmosphere, the arrival of an uninvited guest broke the tranquility of the city. Xia Luo was floating in the sky above the city, looking at the bustling city. He raised his hand and fired a Shinra. Oh no, a Conqueror's Haki struck. Since you are the new emperor, how can you not have the habits that an emperor should have? This Conqueror's Haki is just the welcome gift that you should have. The powerful Conqueror's Haki blasted down from the sky towards the ground. The scope is so wide that it covers the entire island. The originally lively streets suddenly became silent, and all the civilians were stunned by Xia Luo's conquerors. This is Conqueror's Haki. Diamante, who was located higher than the spectator seats in the bullfighting arena, looked at the situation in the arena below with a shocked expression. All the sword fighters and gladiators fell down foaming at the mouth. Diamante is somewhat immune to Conqueror's aura because she has received special training and baptism from Doflamingo. Coupled with the fact that Xia Luo expanded the scope of his skills, their power is not as strong as when concentrated. Where is the enemy? Why can't I feel the aura coming from somewhere? Diamante looked around, trying to find the person who released Conqueror's Haki. But no matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find it, and he wouldn't have thought that someone could carry out such a large Haki range from high altitude. Damn it, it happens at this time. Diamante gritted her teeth, took out a phone from her body and dialed. Blue brew brew. With a few beeps, the phone was immediately connected. Torball, there is an enemy attack. Call the cadres together immediately to protect Sugar, and then notify Pika to find out where the enemy is. As soon as the call was connected, Diamante quickly and anxiously shouted. What? There are enemies. I understand, I will protect Sugar. Upon hearing this, Torball was also shocked. Being in the underground base, he was not affected by Xia Luo Conqueror's Haki. Xia Luo's Haki also failed to penetrate the ground. Damn it, it happened when Dover was away. Who is he? With Haki who has conquerors, the family should not have provoked such a person. After hanging up the phone, Diamante frowned and gritted her teeth and said in confusion. That's right, Doflamingo was no longer in Dressrosa 2 days ago. World government sent people to notify Doflamingo to go to naval headquarters 2 days ago. Not only Doflamingo, but not long after Xia Luo left, Jinbei, which was actually located in the deep sea, also received the notice. It just happened that the time when Xia Luo left was staggered. What should I do? Should I inform the young master? But the young master has only been away for 2 days. Even if he is notified now, he will not be able to come back in time. Just when he was thinking about whether to call the phone bug, a figure appeared behind him. Huh, Doflamingo is not here. No wonder the remaining people on this island give me such a weak feeling. Xia Luo, who possesses thunderous speed, immediately locked onto the person whose aura was still stable, and then ducked behind him. I was a little surprised when I saw that this person was not Doflamingo, but after hearing the other person's murmured words, I suddenly realized. Who? Diamante turned her head sharply, and cold sweat could not stop flowing from her forehead. His strength is not that of a newcomer or unknown person in the new world, yet someone can sneak up behind him quietly. No need to think about it, it must be the person who broke out Conqueror's Haki in the city. But when he saw Xia Luo's face clearly, his shock and fear could no longer be suppressed. Luo, Xia Luo, you are the recently famous Golden Lion too, Xia Luo. He pointed at Xia Luo with a trembling finger, and the corners of his mouth couldn't stop twitching. We, the Don Quixote family, should have no grievances against you. Why are you targeting our Don Quixote family? Why didn't you, the Don Quixote family, come to me first? We came to you first. Diamante was suddenly shocked. How dare they find trouble with an emperor-level combat figure? Wrong. He reacted. 2 days ago, it seemed like Doflamingo sent BEBY5 and Violet Special, and the Buffalo Trio are going to perform some mission. It seemed to be related to the loving relatives. It was Torbal who notified several people at that time. He only knew about the incident and did not know the details. No, you must inform the young master. We alone cannot resist such a person. Single quote. Diamante took out another phone bug and wanted Doflamingo's phone number. Ah, a bolt of lightning struck his hand holding the phone bug, and the phone bug fell to the ground. Hateful. Diamante covered her hand that was hit and looked at Xia Luo in horror. Sword, snake, sword. He endured the severe pain and pulled out the western sword from his waist, and then the sword extended towards Xia Luo as lightly as silk. Xia Luo glanced lightly, and found that her figure had disappeared from its original position and reappeared behind Diamante. Why don't you fight me? I can't stand it after just one shot. Simple. Xia Luo grabbed his cloak and pulled it like a dead dog, leaving a long bloodstain on the ground. It was unclear whether it was caused by abrasions or the blood in his mouth. He thought the leaders of the Doflamingo family were so strong, but he didn't expect that they couldn't even catch one of his attacks. This was too weak. Or could it be that he had become too strong? Diamante felt her head sink, and she hit her head hard on the ground. Go down. Xia Luo jumped down from the big hole, looked at Diamante, who didn't know whether she was alive or dead, and said doubtfully. Gladius was relatively calm and said in a deep voice. Everyone stepped forward together and stepped into the gate of the arena. Let's go. Diamante should be waiting inside. Let's ask him first if there are any clues. Outside the bullfighting arena. Did you all come here after receiving orders from Torebel? Dellinger said solemnly as he watched the arrival of a group of cadres. Rao Ji is also like him. The older he is, the more he feels that no one is coming. Several belated officials of the Don Quixote family gathered together. Well, you can feel the aura just now. The guy who can possess such a powerful conqueror's Haki is definitely not an ordinary person. This is an enemy attack. The western sword moves like a snake, meandering forward quickly. Feel. It penetrated from the high-rise building to the first floor, and then smashed a big hole in the ground. This blow made him roll his eyes, and he fell to the ground unable to move while vomiting blood. Chapter 149. Cadres wiped out. Where's Pika? Didn't he come? Dellinger shook his head and glanced, then asked doubtfully. The most powerful people in the city now should be the cadres of several legion leaders, and the absence of the powerful Pika made him really curious. The identity of the enemy is still unknown. Torbal asked him to find out the identity of the enemy first. Gladius opened his mouth to answer his doubts. On the high ground of the royal city next to the arena, Pika blended into the rocks, and a huge face emerged from the wall, his eyes not only scanning the movements in the city. Dressrosa is centered on the high ground, with a wall separating the two sides. For very huge reasons. He needed to keep changing positions to search, but he happened to miss the bullfighting arena below him. He would never have imagined that the enemy would actually be in the arena managed by Diamante. Diamante. What happened? Where is the enemy? Do you know his identity? As soon as he entered the arena, Dellinger couldn't help shouting loudly. But no one responded to him. The place has become a mess. All the civilians in the audience fainted and fell to the ground. All the sword fighters on the arena were frothing at the mouth, and there was also a guy who was held up by a wooden frame. It must have been done by one of the more cruel sword fighters. How pitiful. Dellinger looked at the horrific scene and didn't think it was cruel but wanted to laugh. The blood in the arena also inspired his fighting fish blood, and he couldn't help but want to fight. Licked. Dellinger turned his head back to the center of the arena, staring intently at the figure that Mu Xian had made across. Why do these clothes and looks look so familiar? When I take a closer look, isn't this the Diamante who called them here? Look, is that Diamante? Dellinger pointed at the center of the arena with a frightened look on his face and shouted loudly. Everyone followed the sound and saw the Diamante that Dellinger mentioned. He was like a corpse, with his head lowered and his hands tied to a cross. If they hadn't been familiar with Diamante's dress, they wouldn't have been able to tell that this person who looked like a dead dog was actually their top cadre. How is that possible? Diamante is one of the top leaders of our Don Quixote family. Who can defeat him so quickly? Lao Ji shouted in shock. All the cadres couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Only a short time had passed since notifying them and arriving at the arena. Diamante had already been defeated by this unknown enemy. Soon, they reacted again, and all looked around cautiously. Since Diamante was defeated here, it means that the enemy is probably here, but the enemy's hiding place is unknown. Over there. Dellinger suddenly pointed to the high platform where the commentator should have been. Now I saw Xia Luo sitting there, watching their actions with amusement. They're all here, so I don't have to worry about finding them. Xia Luo stood up slowly. The people below seemed to be like frightened little rabbits, and they all put on their fighting postures vigilantly. 2 days ago, Doflamingo gave me a big gift, so I'm here to return the gift to him. Xia Luo seemed to have not seen their hostile looks and kept talking to herself. What a mess. You dare to offend our Don Quixote family, we will never let you off lightly. Let's go. Dellinger shouted, and then rushed towards Xia Luo together with Mahabezi. Etc. Gladius shouted loudly, and the only response he received was 2 whooshing sounds, and then the two flew back at several times the speed of rushing forward. Everyone turned their heads in shock, only to see Dellinger and Mahabezi rolling their eyes and vomiting blood, mounted on the wall. At this time, Xia Luo's voice came from behind them again. Didn't your mother teach you not to interrupt others casually? Oh, by the way, none of you have a mother, right? It seems that you have been following Doflamingo. The remaining 4 people did not dare to move at all. Even they were not sure of defeating Dellinger and Mahabezi and were knocked down in an instant. Especially Gladius, who had just shouted, felt as if he was facing a formidable enemy because he had already recognized Xia Luo's identity. I wonder if our Don Quixote family has offended you in any way. Your Excellency Xia Luo, the second Golden Lion. Gladius said with a heavy tone. I don't have much to say to you little minions, just lie down for me. Xia Luo instantly appeared in the center of the 4 of them. Don't underestimate us. Go to hell. The 4 people immediately turned around and used their ultimate moves to die together with Xia Luo. Most of them are loyal to Doflamingo and are willing to die for their family. Monet also inherited this. It can only be said that Doflamingo treated his subordinates as family members, which really made these people's loyalty level maxed out. In addition to Baby 5 and Violet, there is also a Luo who has escaped. Facing the 4 cadres' ultimate moves, Xia Luo simply transformed into lightning, and all the moves passed through his body and hit their own people. They were already losing money before causing any harm to Xia Luo. The 4 people jumped away at the same time, tightly surrounding Xia Luo in the middle. What? Logia's ability user. Gladius vomited blood and said with difficulty. Gladius, are you mistaken? That Xia Luo should not be Piao Piao. The fruit's ability user. This is obviously the ability of the Logia Devil Fruit. The tough guy Senor Peak asked loudly. He had just been hit by Gladius's bomb, and now he was covered in scars, except for the pacifier in his mouth, which was undamaged. Impossible. This appearance is exactly the same as the one in the newspaper. It is definitely the person. Then how should we explain the thunder and lightning in the body just now? Is it possible that one person can still eat 2 devil fruits? Gladius stared at Xia Luo closely, and then slowly said, this is the only way to explain it, otherwise it would be impossible to explain the changes in his body just now. Are you kidding? As we all know, if you eat 2 devil fruits, you will explode and die. No one can eat 2 devil fruits and still survive. Then you have to ask the person on the other side. The problem may not be with devil fruit, but with the specialness of this person. The eyes of the 5 people showed shock. A brief discussion revealed a fact that was difficult for them to accept. The enemy has the ability of 2 devil fruits. As an enemy, this is undoubtedly chilling news. The discussion is over, right? Since you just made a move, it's my turn now. Xia Luo moved her shoulders, pinched her fingers, and showed a ferocious smile, said slowly. Coming. The 4 of them looked serious and took a defensive posture. Call out. Bang 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 bang. Even with a defensive posture and extreme concentration, they did not see Xia Luo's figure clearly. In just an instant, 4 more craters appeared on the wall, and all 4 Chinbu fainted. Snap. Xia Luo dusted off his palms. These people couldn't even warm him up. Everyone is done with one thunder kick. Now Xia Luo can feel the pleasure of Kizaru kicking a supernova. It's really fun to hit people like this. Aren't you coming out yet? After cleaning up these people, Xia Luo spoke to the empty bullfighting arena. The scene was completely silent, the wind was blowing slowly, and except for a messy open space, no one could be seen who could still move. Haha, why don't you come out yet? Do you think I didn't notice you? Xia Luo shook her head helplessly and smiled. Call out. Just as he finished speaking, Xia Luo's figure appeared in the passage around the corner, which is the passage for sword-fighting players to enter and exit. A figure with an explosive figure appeared in front of Xia Luo, wearing a revealing golden armor that covered the three-point style, an ancient Roman soldier-style helmet, and a green turban. He wears a cloak and golden shoes, and holds a sword and shield in his hand. The pink whip exposed through her helmet has already let Xia Luo know the identity of this person. It is the Princess Rebecca of this country. This made Xia Luo suddenly have the idea of teasing her. Disappeared. Rebecca, who was paying attention to Xia Luo, had dilated pupils and thought to herself in shock. A bad premonition arises spontaneously. At this time, Xia Luo made a little noise without concealing it. Rebecca was instantly startled and jumped a few steps away from her original position. Then she turned around and saw Xia Luo appearing in her original position. She set up her sword and shield and confronted Xia Luo without saying a word. She didn't ask any questions. Through the conversation with a few people just now, she also knew Xia Luo's identity, but Xia Luo had no interaction with her, so she didn't understand what he wanted to be promoted to. Don't be so nervous. Xia Luo took a few steps closer to her, showing a casual and leisurely feeling in her behavior. But this made Rebecca even more nervous, and the pressure hit her. I have nothing to do with the Doflamingo family. Rebecca, while vigilant, slowly retreated and looked at Xia Luo warily, keeping a safe distance from her. I know. Xia Luo kept approaching with a smile on her face, and Rebecca kept retreating. Until her back was pressed against the wall, she felt even more nervous, but her eyes were still locked on Xia Luo. Snapped. Xia Luo pressed her hand heavily on the wall. From a distance, Xia Luo looks like the overbearing president in a campus youth drama, and Rebecca is the little girl who was bullied by the overbearing president and was trembling against the wall. I'm just an unknown civilian. I will never tell anyone about what happened here. Can you please let me go? He couldn't be beaten, and Rebecca had heard of Xia Luo's name. For a person of this level, let alone her, even if Doflamingo takes action, he may not be able to please her. She chose the most rational way, which was to surrender. Xia Luo didn't reply, but directly stretched out her hand. Rebecca suddenly leaned back as if she was electrocuted, and her helmet made a squeaking sound when it hit the wall. She had closed her eyes nervously. Then she felt her head loosen, a feeling of being lifted. When he opened his eyes, he saw Xia Luo's smiling face, holding her helmet in her hand. Isn't this pretty? Why are you wearing this helmet? Xia Luo threw the helmet aside casually. Thanks. Rebecca blushed, lowered her head and murmured softly. As a sword fighter, she fights in this arena to improve her strength, and she is often provoked by her enemies. But the feeling coming out of Xia Luo's mouth is completely different from others. She looks a lot like your mother. Suddenly Xia Luo said something for no reason. My mother. Do you know my mother? After hearing this, Rebecca looked up at Xia Luo, looking slightly flustered and anxious. Rebecca only knew her mother through a photo and the news from the soldier toy. In order to take revenge, she practiced swordsmanship to overthrow Doflamingo's reign of terror, and then defeat Diamante who killed her mother. That's why I came here. Yes, actually I am your father. Xia Luo grinned and said in a very wicked tone. My dad. Rebecca was immediately stunned. What kind of experience is it for a person who has never met her to say that she knows her mother, and then says that she is her father? Stop. Stop joking. Mr. Xia Luo, you look a few years older than me. How could you be my father? Rebecca yelled loudly after reacting. Her mother had died a long time ago, and it was impossible for Xia Luo to know her mother at that age. She thought it was Xia Luo's joke. Well, that's right, I'm just kidding. Although, Nuohao, I am not your father now, it doesn't matter if I become your father in the future. Xia Luo's sentence can be described as a pun. Your Excellency Xia Luo, although you are better than me, please don't insult me like this. Although I don't know who my father is, I won't just recognize any father. Rebecca pushed Xia Luo away angrily, jumped to another position, and the deputy commander looked like he would never stop fighting. Because Cyrus turned into a toy, everyone lost their memory of him, including Rebecca, who did not remember her biological father. Okay, I told you I was joking, but actually I was sent to rescue you. Seeing that her stress reaction was coming out, Xia Luo also put away her bad jokes and said with a serious expression. Entrustment. Rescue. This made Rebecca confused for a while. I can't explain it to you now. 1. But your enemy should be the guy who was helped on the stage. He is your mother-killing enemy. If you don't plan to go over and make 2 kills, I won't stop him. The commission was naturally Violet's, but he didn't intend to explain it to Rebecca. Instead, he held Diamante in the center of the arena and said. No need. I will defeat him myself one day. Seeing her former enemy hanging there like a dead dog, Rebecca hesitated for a while and said firmly. It's up to you. Wait until I finish dealing with those guys and explain to you what's going on. Now you just stay here and wait for me to come back. Seeing this, Xia Luo stopped insisting and turned around to float into the sky. He planned to pack Doflamingo's cadres together as a gift in return. Then take the whole Dressrosa away. This bustling city also has a lot of supplies. There is no reason for Xia Luo to let this city go, so he just took advantage of this opportunity to pack it up and take it away. Chapter 150 Electric Grilled Pika. The strange guy actually said he was his father or something, but he actually knew his mother. It's really strange. Looking at Xia Luo who had gone away, Rebecca was a little confused. She did not choose to listen to Xia Luo's wishes and choose to stay where she was and wait. Instead, she turned around and ran to find the toy soldiers who raised her. When Xia Luo just released Conqueror's Haki, Rebecca also noticed this oppressive aura. However, due to the wide range of Xia Luo's Haki, the intensity is insufficient. Rebecca relied on her own will to withstand the impact of Haki. This will was much stronger than other sword fighters in the bullfighting arena. After Xia Luo left the arena, she flew directly towards the high ground next to her. After receiving the news from Torrebel, Pika also integrated her body into the rock pillars in the highlands. This is the highest area in the entire Dressrosa and is the best location for exploration. But no matter how hard he searched, he found no trace of the intruder. This also made him anxious and irritable for a while. Hey, big guy, look over here. Suddenly, a voice came to his ear. Pika's current state is to leave a huge face on the attached rock layer for exploration. His true body is hidden inside the rock. Pika glanced around and saw no one. He thought he heard wrongly. But at this moment, the voice came again. Aren't you always looking for me? I'm over here. This time, he finally heard the source of the voice clearly. Turning his perspective upward, he saw Xia Luo floating in the sky. You're the one who invaded our Don Quixote family's territory, right? You actually made this place a mess. You're already prepared to die. A sharp and harsh sound came from Pika's mouth. The sound was so inconsistent with his appearance that Xia Luo couldn't help laughing. Although I have heard this sound from the original work, the impact of seeing it and hearing it in reality is completely different. You guy. Pika cataloged fierce light. Scarlet light has filled his eyes. At this moment he has lost his mind. A giant face of rock protruded from the wall. At the same time, the rocks continued to form the torso and arms, and soon a huge stone giant appeared in front of Xia Luo. Its size is many times larger than that of the legendary giants. 857 ordinary giants are as short as 12 meters tall, and the tallest ones are only dozens of meters tall. And Pika's fist is about 50 meters tall. He is almost 1,000 meters tall. The giants were like newborn babies in front of him. You will pay the price for what you just did. The burly giant clenched his fists, and the stone eyes seemed to be like real people, also emitting red light. A punch that could easily knock away the giants was aimed at Xia Luo. He didn't think about how Xia Luo flew at all, nor did he pay attention to Xia Luo's appearance and identity. Anger had filled his entire head. Interesting. Facing this fist that was many times bigger than a sandbag, Xia Luo stopped laughing and then raised his hands. Judging from his appearance, he wanted to receive the punch head-on. Bang! It was beyond Pika's expectation. I thought I could beat Xia Luo into pieces with this punch. But in fact, his fist was like hitting an indestructible piece of steel, and the impact destroyed half of his arm. Pika looked at the broken half of his arm in horror, wondering why the problem with his punch was with his own hands. But this is just his fruit-transformed arm. As long as there are enough stones, it can be restored. It is not considered an injury. Pika wanted to fill the stone to restore his arm, and then trapped Xia Luo alive in the stone and suffocated to death. But a huge force interrupted his spellcasting. I saw that his body that was originally close to the ground floated up at some point, and he lost the opportunity to touch the rocks. The power is good, but the intensity is too low. This level of rock body is not even enough to tickle me. Xia Luo, who was on the broken arm of the rock, laughed. He grabbed the broken rock with both hands and used the power of lion fruit. Then his whole body suddenly became stronger. This nearly 1,000-meter tall rock giant was thrown into the air by him. The rock giant was like a child, spinning in circles, and then suddenly smashed into the sparsely populated area on the other side of the king's highland. Boom! The huge body made a big crater in the fields on the other side of the kingdom. The rock giant composed of Pika also shattered into pieces under the impact. There are still many fallen civilians in the city. He plans to take this city away, so it is inconvenient to carry out some senseless killings. He doesn't like fearless killing, but prefers fist-to-flesh fighting. So he didn't smash the Pika directly into the city. Ahem. Pika, who was severely injured, pushed away the boulder that covered him, stood up from the ruins, and stared at Xia Luo's figure. You guys. Are definitely not some unknown person. The strange feeling you had just now was as if the gravity of your body had disappeared. Which, Golden Lion too, are you Xia Luo? Only those with lion fruit abilities can do this kind of thing. After receiving a severe beating, he regained consciousness. With his anger dissipated, he began to think about Xia Luo's identity. No, with my strength I definitely can't be an opponent of this kind of monster. I must report what's going on here to the young master. Pika secretly gritted his teeth. Now was not the time to show off. he had to run away when it was time to run away. The power gap is too big, they have no chance to defeat Xia Luo. He has seen the power of the 4 emperors. Even the young master can't take advantage of them. That kind of power that destroys the world. Pika couldn't help but shudder. Not only Doflamingo, but also he was frightened by the strength Kaido had shown. It is a kind of fear brought about by the unparalleled destructive power. Thinking of this, Pika has made up his mind. His body is slowly petrified, and he wants to blend into the ruins. He will contact Doflamingo by phone as soon as he returns to the castle. Huh, you want to escape? Xia Luo's observation Haki noticed his intention and slowly raised the corners of his mouth. A flash of electric light filled the palm of his hand. God's judgment. A bolt of red lightning shot out of Xia Luo's hand. I don't know when the sky has condensed into a black cloud. After the lightning merged into the clouds and mist, it began to spread wantonly, and violent thunderclouds formed within a short time. Then a thick bolt of lightning shot out from the thundercloud and struck hard at Pika, who had already integrated his body into the rock. Ah 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 ah. A sharp scream came from Pika's mouth. This voice is like the electronic voice changer used on the internet in the previous life, sharp and very funny. Let Xia Luo burst out laughing again. Although stone is non-conductive, Xia Luo's lightning is extraordinary. It directly destroys the surface of the rock and instantly heats the temperature of the stone, causing the stone to become conductive. The lightning passed through the defense of the rock, and then hit Pika's body hard. After all, he is not Logia's demon fruit power. Although he can turn his body into rock, he can still be hurt. Especially the high temperature heated by thunder. If it were on land, this high temperature would have baked him into a paste. This made Xia Luo sigh again. He didn't know what the rubber in the pirate world was made of. The protagonist's rubber ability can even resist high temperatures. Although ordinary rubber is not conductive, it would have melted under the heat generated by this powerful current. Call out. Xia Luo's figure appeared on the ruins again. He clenched his fist and smashed it into the ground again, and another big hole appeared in the ruins. Xia Luo's hands were already on Pika's neck, which was hidden underground. At this time, his eyes had turned white, his whole body smelled of burnt blackness, and the blood at the corner of his mouth had dried up under the high temperature. There's only one left. Xia Luo dragged the unconscious Pika slowly into the air. Then he flew to the bullfighting arena on the other side. When he came back here and left Pika behind, Rebecca's figure was nowhere to be seen. Really? I told her to wait for me here, she is such a disobedient little girl. Xia Luo rubbed her hair with a headache and said helplessly, the disobedient children must be taught a lesson from now on. Ignoring Rebecca, Xia Luo closed her eyes and concentrated on her sight and smell, using the thunderous electric wave perception to explore the breath hidden deeper. Found it. After feeling where Su Tang was, Xia Luo quickly ran towards her position. This city hides a huge underground world, where Sugar's main work area is. She works endlessly for the Don Quixote family by turning failed sword fighters or humans into toys. Underground, Torrebel was walking back and forth, looking sad. Hey, stop here for a moment, I'm so tired of walking around there all the time. Sugar's childish cooing voice reached his ears. Torrebel was unmoved, still looking like that, as if he didn't hear granulated Sugar's voice at all, and at the same time he kept mumbling. Why hasn't there been any news for so long? And what happened to that huge commotion just now? Is it possible that Pika took action? But why was there silence all of a sudden? The enemy has been eliminated, right? Or maybe Pika has been eliminated by the enemy. Do you want to inform the young master? Then the young master will think that we are useless. We have to inform him about every little thing. Torbel's mood at this moment could be described as uneasy. The sudden enemy and the huge noise just now affected him. At this point he was hesitating whether to call Doflamingo. Report the situation here. He knew that his young master was going to world government to participate in a major battle. The world government has issued a compulsory recruitment order this time, and the young master of Shichibukai must not be absent. Otherwise, Shichibukai's identity will be shaken, and it will also cause unnecessary trouble for the young master's future plans. This was a point of confusion for him, which was why he was so timid and entangled. If you're so worried, go up and take a look yourself. Don't bother me here. Sugar looked fierce and shouted angrily. Torrebel was so angry that her appearance was revealed. Coupled with her years of work, she has long had a lot of complaints against Torrebel. Because she felt like she was being treated like a child, but she was actually 20 years old. She was already an adult, but her body stopped growing the moment she ate the childlike fruit. No, I have to protect your safety here, otherwise what should you do if someone attacks you? Sugar's suggestion was immediately rejected by him, and he explained in a hurry. It was this look that made Sugar so disgusted. It's like taking care of a child. I'm not a child anymore. I can protect myself. You guys can do that for me too. Oh, really? Then you are the legendary legal Loli, right? Haha, delicious kid, I found you. As soon as she finished roaring, a voice came from behind him. At the same time, she also saw Torrebel opposite with a frightened look, pointing tremblingly behind her with his fingers. Before she could react, someone pulled the small cloak behind her. Sakharin's perspective also kept getting higher, and he was soon looking at horrible parallel to each other. She turned her head mechanically and saw a sunny and handsome face. At this time, he was looking at her with a ferocious smile. It was okay if she didn't look at it, but she was immediately frightened when she looked at it. Seeing that she couldn't break free, she directly untied the hood of the bear and jumped down. Also, Xia Luo's delicious words made her mistakenly think that some ogre had appeared, but she finally reacted. It felt like being frightened by God-tier Usopp. He raised his hands, raised his eyes, stuck out his tongue and started to curl up. Wait a minute, sugar, come back quickly. That's, Torbal shouted anxiously. But she quickly reacted and kept pulling on her bear hood and cloak with both hands. You are the intruder. Turn me into a toy. In the end, under her contract, the body turned into a tattered death watch. Sanduang, who landed again, did not run away. Instead, he slapped Xia Luo on the knee. Who are you? Let me go. Sugar didn't listen to his dissuasion and took action before he finished speaking. This is her invincible move in the past, turning the enemy into a toy, and then making the toy into her puppet through a contract, and being at her mercy forever. She has the confidence to face this situation. As long as her childlike fruit ability can touch the enemy, she is invincible. Own face. Although he was deliberately trying to be scary, he was still the most handsome guy on the ship. The beauty on the ship, Guang Shibu, praised his handsome face. I wonder where in the whole pirate ship can you find a sour boy who can compare with him. Even though he is the only male in the whole ship, he was not frightened into unconsciousness. The fact that I was frightened by Xia Luo just now was purely due to his sudden appearance and his silent appearance behind her. Huh, am I ugly? Looking at Sutang's frightened look, Xia Luo couldn't help but touched herself.